Starting in three, two, and one. And we are now live, and I want to welcome everyone who has joined us live here. Today we're going to be chatting with Sophia and also Mr. Will Rail. Will, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Excellent. I've been looking at some of your videos on this, and you're the only reason why I'm on Twitch right now, which I still don't really understand how a lot of Twitch and all this stuff works. But I was really glad that that you've been covering this case, and I figured one of the things I'm just gonna close this thing down. One of the things that I wanted to probably start with you on here first is obviously whenever there's somebody who learns about this case or knows about this case, the first thing that I would want to know, two things: what brought you to this case, and as of right now, what is your view on this case?
Okay, so first, there's a few different ways I actually got into this case. I heard about it back in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
but due to some, um, basically some complications, I wasn't able to actually like look at it, um, not to a great detail at least. And so, I mean, it interested me then, but then my buddy Jarrett had actually told me like, oh, I mean, it was probably I don't know, like 2, 3 months ago. We started talking about different cases to look at for my Twitch series,
Mm-hmm.
and he mentioned the Gray State, and he mentioned this other movie, Santo. So I started looking at both, and I was like, "Wait, Gray State? That sounds familiar." So that just brought back all these memories. I'm like, "Oh, I need to look at this one instantly." And so, also after everything else, I'm also still looking at all sorts of other things that David was looking at, and I do see how dangerous things can be with that kind of stuff, and some of the things that the complications that can come with that. I mean, it's a lot of this stuff is mind blowing. So I totally get kind of why people might consider him kind of stressed out or kind of even to the point of crazy a little bit. I get it. I mean, I would disagree. I don't think the guy was crazy because once again, I'm seeing the same things he was seeing. But looking at this case, the big thing here is I don't think he's guilty at all. I think he's absolutely innocent. I think all three were murdered, and that's my opinion, of course. But but no, I do feel like there is definitely some staging going on. There's quite a bit of framing going on, and I think there's a lot of dragging his name through the mud. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't understand what the motive is for this quite yet, but that's something I'm hoping we'll be able to figure out here pretty soon.
Yeah, I do too. Um, so you mentioned that you also look into other cases, other investigations, things like that.
Mhm.
What is the name of your your Twitch channel, and where can people find out more about the work that you've been doing on different
Sure,
cases?
sure. Um, so if you were to go to twitch.tv/strange investigations, that'll take you straight to my Twitch channel. Um, and I mean, there was I was supposed to be looking into that arson case that happened here in Portland last weekend,
Mm.
but the police solved that I think it was about an hour before I even was like getting on. I'm like, oh, great. So, but I did want to go and continue looking at um, uh, the Crowley family murders. But I've looked at things from just mostly just a bunch of shootings mostly throughout Portland. But I have looked at some other cases throughout the U.S. Like there's the monoliths. Were they kind of a hoax, or are they more something that's kind of like it's actually real? Things like this. Getting into kind of the peculiar things. We looked at the mystery schools throughout the ancient world. I mean, all sorts of different investigations kind of going on. So,
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I'm just checking out your Twitch. I was trying to see if I could look at the Twitch without actually logging in, and it looks like you can. So that's pretty cool.
mhm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I saw you've done a lot of videos just on this case here.
Hmm.
What five? I think I missed the last one. You must be like a night owl or something like that because
Oh yeah.
we're in the same time zone. I think, and
Mhm.
man, by like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., I'm done. I am just wiped out. So you're just getting started at that point. It looks like so.
I mean, yeah, I'm usually up around like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Every other day, use my kids and everything. But
Sure.
other than that, I mean, I'm up till usually about like 3, 4 o'clock in the mornings. I just can't sleep. I mean, I'll be honest, a lot of the stuff that I'm looking at it keeps me up at night. So,
Do you ever get burnt out on this stuff here? Any of these cases?
I mean, I do, but I basically my trick is as I'm going along, I take little like very very little breaks. I might go and like listen to some music that is kind of more relaxing. I might sit there and just kind of organize. I might do stuff with Discord. I mean, I do all sorts of different things just to that way I'm not just getting burnt out on it.
Sure. And you're a gamer too, is that right?
Well, I don't really have time anymore. I used to. I was before this. Long story short, I kind of made a promise to my wife if anything kind of got too close to home,
Sure.
just namely the Antifa crap. When they got too close to my house, there was actually a stabbing near my house that was at this I think it was a what was it Recall Kate Brown rally over in Happy Valley, and so basically what happened, somebody got stabbed there, and my deal with my wife was if it got too close to home, I could start looking at this stuff again. I could actually start like throwing my opinion out there because I felt it was the right thing to do. But that was kind of like I can't do this, if I'm going to be with her and all this. But that was kind of the rule there.
Sure.
If it got too close to home, I'm allowed to look again to make sure she's safe and the kids are safe, and but I don't have to stop now, so that's the good thing.
Yeah, yeah, I'm totally with you there, and definitely it's good to keep your wife and keep your children, keep your family close, keep them first, and so I totally get that. I always hate to see whenever any of these investigations, anything like that, causes any strife or any problems between a husband and wife. I haven't really had too much of that, but I also try not to get too close to some of these cases. I'm very picky about which case that I'll really dive deeper into, and but because we're Christians, we're not too worried about some of the backlash stuff like that. You just
No.
never know what could happen, right? I mean, you do want to be careful. You don't want to be stupid. You want to use wisdom when you're looking into any of these cases here, but this stuff definitely is not for everyone, and not
Yeah.
everybody can take the time, can sacrifice, and I don't want people to feel bad if they're not able to either. There's cases, there's places that I would like to be, that I would like to cover, and I can't do it because of different reasons. I'd love to go out to Minnesota and go do some deeper research into the Crowley case. Right now, that's not possible. I don't think my wife would want me to do that either. She knows how serious I take this case. She knows how invested I am in this case. But at the same time, she also makes sure that I don't ob- ob- obsess over this case, and that I,
Yeah.
always use wisdom, and that I always put God first and not put something like this first. So, anyways, that's a nice little back and forth that and you know what? There's probably many people out there who probably have these same things. I know how toxic this David Crowley case can be, and I know many of the people listening to this, watching this, they all know how toxic this case can be. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. I've had to take breaks from this case. I've had to take a couple steps back. I've had to
Mhm.
go back and kind of see what I did right, what I did wrong, what I should have done better. So uh, it's always good to get more eyes on this case, and I really think
Absolutely.
that is pretty much my main focus is to try to get as many eyes on this case as possible. And it's always curious when we have so many people looking into this case from different backgrounds, different thoughts on this case, how they got involved, and I'm just always curious to hear those stories. So I do appreciate you sharing some of that, and I do hope people will go to Twitch. You're also on YouTube, Patreon, Twitter, and I'm assuming under the same handle name, Strange Investigations.
So on YouTube, it wouldn't actually let me change it to straight. I'm not really sure if I can
Mm-hmm.
change it on there, but it's under my real name under William Rail.
Okay.
Um, I'm also on Rumble, I'm on Odyssey, and I'm on BitChute as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go and still put those up. I don't know if Twitch actually um, would be. I don't know if they like have like any kind of plugin for it that like lets me like link or not,
Hmm.
or like kind of like how my YouTube and all this is on there. But looking to also adjust those from the gaming theme, of course, is not gaming anymore.
Yeah, I used to game when I was younger, way before the whole online gaming. That's a whole another world that I couldn't really get into, just because of time and everything. I look at some of these games and I'm just like, I'm gonna have to quit my job to learn some of these games. They're
Right.
so like real but yeah. So, anyways, it's a whole another world, and that's another thing that I feel bad about kids growing up in this world now who don't understand what the world was like before this digital age, before social
Mhm.
media, cyberbullying, before all of that stuff. They're really missing out, and they're gonna
Oh
miss
yeah,
out.
I mean, you ask like kids like, so have you been outside playing? What's outside? Oh, good God, man.
Yeah, well, we're all in lockdown now, so that's another whole thing too. They're not gonna know what it's like to not have to go through that. But that's a whole nother issue. I'm sure we could have a long discussion on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, so I know that Sophia is joining us, and before we started the show, we were kind of chatting, and you had brought up something very curious, and I'm going to share. I'm going to put that image up here on the screen right now. This image is one of the more popular image. I don't know if that would be the correct term, but this image, has gained a lot of curiosity as to what this is. What are we looking at here? So here we have the BCA image, BCA 4500, and that's on the left. And to the right, we have the Apple Valley Police Department's DSC 0183. And I'm so glad that you put up the actual crime scene photos. Sometimes I forget to do that, but it does make it so much easier for people when they're searching through almost over 1,000 photos. This makes it kind of
Hmm.
easy for them to go and find the actual photo for that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this here, why this stuck out to you, and what you have found?
All right. Well, I mean, you are absolutely correct. I believe most people are going to see this photo and be like, what is that? Is that urine? What is that? What is that? Is that a paper towel? And the thing is like nobody was really like, I didn't see a whole lot of people like, oh, okay, this is what this is definitively. So I decided, I was like, okay, I think we need to break this down. This needs to be absolutely broke down. Is this urine or is it blood? Is it a paper towel or is that toilet paper? And so basically, when I was doing some research on it, I found that the ABPD and the BCA never tested the liquid. I figured this should be something that would be relevant, and they didn't test it. So I thought that was really odd. So when I started looking around, I started looking into, okay, well, what does blood in water, well, like toilet water to be specific? Because that's not just regular water. I mean, that's like there's other contents in there. You got bacteria, you got bleach, you got all sorts of things in there. And with urine, for instance, that actually does decompose. And it decomposes rather quickly, actually. And that would be giving up a very, very distinct smell. It's actually quite overwhelming. So it would have had its own area, not to mention, with like dog feces and stuff. There should have still been some mention of this. You walk in the bathroom, toilet was already open, and, they're seeing that, okay, there's some liquid in here. What is this? There would have been a smell, like a very, very distinct smell if it was urine. And so they didn't mention anything about at all in any of the reports. So I was like, okay, well, if that's not it, and even if you look at the liquid itself, once again, there's no smell. The discoloration is quite a bit different than if it were urine. So I basically concluded, no, it can't be urine. And then I looked at blood, and you get a very similar color, especially over time. If we're looking 8 to 10 days, I'd say this is pretty likely, especially because it was already initially on um, the paper product in there.
Hmm.
So that would have been leaked, which means there's also the chemicals from the paper that are also going to be seeping into the water as well. So this would make this discoloration. I'm actually planning on doing an experiment with urine and blood. I know it's disgusting, but the urine I already know it's going to just instantly. It's going to be like a day, 2 days, and you're going to get this really strong odor. So I can already basically just conclude that's not it. So once again, it would have been overwhelming to the point where they would have said something. But you're going to get the distinct smell. But it's not going to be overwhelming with blood, like at all. You'll get a metallic type of smell, but once again, not overwhelming. So the discoloration matches. So is it blood? I'd argue yes. Is it a paper towel or toilet paper? Same thing. Toilet paper, you'd have to get some really, really thick toilet paper. From what I saw, they didn't seem to have any. Really thick toilet paper looked like it was kind of standard, maybe like a 2-ply. So that's not going to be able to absorb water like this did. So that would draw the conclusion that it has to be a paper towel. And not to mention, you look at like the little the tearaway marks on it. It looks like it's either a sheet or two of, I would argue, some heavier duty paper towel. And once again, if it's heavier duty paper towel, that explains also why there's quite a bit of water that's actually missing from there. And I know there's people that are going to argue, oh, well, paleo could be drinking it. I don't think so. I'm actually on the theory, I think that he was going downstairs to drink. Because, once again, if you look at where the dog feces are leading, it all looks like it leads downstairs. And it looks like he was kind of just going back and forth. So I'd say that there had to have been water downstairs he was drinking from.
Sure.
Do we know if they were on city water or if they had a septic system?
I'll be honest, I didn't see anything about that either, so, and I have no idea.
Would that be
something we can quickly look up, though?
Would the would the crime scene photos show that in the basement?
I don't know. I've never had
so.
a septic system.
Yeah, me either.
Let's see. Apple Valley, Minnesota. Are they sewer?
I only asked because wouldn't paper towels clog up if they were flushing paper towels regularly?
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't that clog up their septic? I know just for a regular toilet, it would still do stuff, like clogging and.
Mm-hmm.
This might be a weird question while you're looking that up. Is it possible to tell if the toilet paper or the paper towel, whatever this is, paper towel more than likely, is it possible to tell if the blood or the urine was there first, or if this was laid out afterwards? Any thoughts on that?
So that, I don't think there's any way to actually tell that. Like, from everything I've found, that's going to be something we don't know for sure. But we do know that all we know is just that the paper towel, or what I'm assuming is paper towel, it absorbed whatever the liquid was, and then there was leakage, basically from it just sitting there. So, but it didn't look like it was actually absorbing quite a bit, just based on like the placement of it. It looks like there was part of it that was still in there, but it looks like that dissolved and went away. Once again, I mean, even a Bounty paper towel, a short amount like that, I mean, that could easily dissolve, like no problem.
Does this look like a clogged toilet? Like if somebody were to flush it, then it would, rise up to the very brim of the toilet, or you think
and
it's
then
just
slowly drain
and then slowly drain
to where it's kind of empty in the bowl, then with just the leftover paper?
I mean, that is a possibility as well.
Yeah, I seriously hadn't thought about it until now.
But
also at the same time, the only reason I think that it's not as likely is because the placement of the paper towel would be elsewhere. It would be a little more kind of like sucked in than it is right here. And we'd also see more evidence that there was whatever clogged. There'd be more evidence of it actually like protruding from the hole. And if you look at like the BCA 4500, I mean, you can see to the bottom of the little well right there. There's nothing protruding.
True. That's
So
true.
I don't think it's super likely, but I do think it is a possibility.
It's just so little water there
Hmm.
that I don't know if that's normal. Looking at the other toilets, they have a lot more water. The water level seems higher than this one here.
It
And
is. It
and
is.
it is a kid's toilet, kids can do strange things. They can try to flush toys down there or just try to flush things that we know should not go down there. It's just very curious.
Well, yeah, that's
Um,
very true as well.
Regarding
I
the
just think
paper
that.
towel, go ahead.
Mhm. Oh, I was gonna say just basically with the position of the paper towel and everything.
Hmm.
I think that's basically what happens. You can see that it still looks like it has some liquid in it, but it looks like it's part of it's kind of like dried up a little.
Hmm.
So I think that's basically what happened. It just the paper towel being there just absorbed just enough that it took it down that much. And then of course because it had so much liquid, it just kind of started to droop in there and then just dissolve.
Looking at the other image, the DSC 0183, if you look at the toilet seat lid too, I mean that clearly looks like this paper towel or a paper towel was used to wipe something, right?
Um,
I mean look at that. You
that's
can
I'm gonna be honest, it's a little hard to tell.
yeah, and
I know
it
that if
looks
you look at the BCA 4500, I don't know if this is super notice or notable, but there is some drippage if you were to like zoom in on the actual image itself.
hmm, on the
There's
top
definitely
there.
looks like some drippage. So I mean, it could be urine. Once again, I mean, it happens. Let's be honest. Us guys, sometimes, not often, but
It is.
some guys,
Well,
they little drippage or
kids too.
yep, yep. I love it when kids are like, no, I didn't do that. Right,
Mhm.
right. Sure you didn't. The lies.
They also clog toilets. They do all kinds of good stuff.
Oh yeah, well aware of that
So,
one too. That's a fun one.
hmm
That's pretty interesting.
Oh,
So
don't chew on my charger. No. Sorry.
it's okay. If this
Oh,
was
gosh.
blood, how much blood do you think would be here? How much blood are we seeing?
See, so what I think here, I'm not exactly sure on the amount, but I do think it was whatever was on the hands.
Mm.
So once again, I feel this is crucial directly to the crime scene. I feel that this connects directly to the Allahu Akbar image on the wall. This is actually my next one I'm breaking down for an infographic, actually. So,
Nice.
um, yeah, it's that doesn't add up either. That looks like that could either be two hands or they basically like smeared a hand or they did something on both sides and then just kind of wiped it. But that doesn't add up either. But so I mean, if we're talking, if for instance it isn't David's hand, like I'm assuming, I feel that's what happened. His hand was removed and then they used it, you know. Um, but let's just say it is somebody else. Well, we can find hand size based on those too, which I'll be going over. Like it's going to take me some time to break down, um, but you can find hand size off that as well. And so, I mean, depending on the hand size, that's what this looks like here. Just a hand of blood essentially was just wiped off.
Interesting.
Which once again, I mean, that could differ. If it was like, let's say, for instance, a small person. There's one person we have obviously we're looking at. It's quite small, smallest of the bunch, if you will. If that person were doing it, then I would argue this is not going to be a whole lot of blood in comparison. Like for instance, the bigger guys, there were that some of us are suspecting. They would have quite a bit more blood on their hands than a little guy. So it could differ. Is this if I think that's part of the problem here, which it kind of gives us a little hint. If we can kind of figure out how much blood it would take to dilute the water that way, and also have some of the stuff up on the paper towel up here, we can actually determine the hand size, and then we can actually, or rather the amount of blood, and then we can, once we find the hand size, we can determine from there about how much blood it would take and how much blood was on the hand and all this. We can go and we can reverse engineer it, if you will.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. And you said
Okay.
8 to 10 days?
Yeah, that's what we came to a conclusion with, wasn't it, Sophia? Like something like 8 to 10 days.
Oh, that's not my conclusion.
Oh, as I was talking,
That
I was talking to you about it. It was looking like the 8 to 10 days or whatever the body was. Basically, they were just sitting there.
Yeah, I
um
know Catherine has talked a lot a bit about the
mhm.
about 8 to 10 days, and
Maybe it was Catherine then. I don't know. I had a conversation. I could have sworn it was Sophia, though, and I could be wrong.
I mean, we've discussed it, but that's not my conclusion.
Fair enough.
But okay, so playing devil's advocate as I've done in the past, why not just wash hands in the sink
Right?
and throw the paper towels away, or even go outside and throw the paper towels away because the trash had been taken. It had already, that was already emptied and everything. Not the ones in the house, but the ones outside. So,
Speaking on that, I'm curious about that. Like, because somebody
Me
would have
too.
had to have dropped that off at the edge of the curb at least, and then taken it back. So, and that, I mean, when was that done? You know?
Yeah, it's like, why leave evidence in the house if
I just, me personally,
they were going to do that?
I just personally think whoever did this, they left some things there. They tried to go and kind of stage it as best as they could, and trying to make it look a little sloppy. You know, like, oh yeah, no, David did this. No, he didn't. I think that's where they messed up. I think they overthought it. This is what ended up happening. I don't think these are highly intelligent individuals that did this, because once again, they're leaving a mess of evidence. I mean, there's so much that doesn't add up. I mean, we can look at this, we can look at the Allahu Akbar, we can look at the bullet trajectory, we can look at all sorts of different things. Somebody coming back to the crime scene before they're done cleaning, lying about it, of course, about part of it, and then pointing out about the bullet hole. Which, by the way, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I looked at the initial photos they took. You can see it. You can actually see the bullet hole. Very, very faint, but you can see it. So I mean, it was obviously there. So I don't think anybody came back and just, shot it up in the air or whatever, just to kind of, okay, well, you guys missed this, to try and go and throw people off. I mean, I can show that's not necessarily true, but the police not noticing that is really hard to believe. I mean, I noticed it just looking at the photos, so that's me just looking at photos. So if I can just look at a photo and see this, these guys are going to be like right there, they can experience it, full on 3D, then yeah, I mean, there's no way they could have missed that. So I think that's the problem here, is what it came down to is they just overthought the hell out of this. Pardon my language.
do you think that they?
Well,
Go ahead, Sophia.
I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again, and I stand by this. I believe that 2 to 3 people were there. They overstaged it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't even know. I can't say this for certain because I wasn't there, but possibly even came back and did even more staging.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You could see that just based on the bullet, for instance, the bullet trajectory. Some of them don't make any sense. You look at the body placement. Once again, this is not somebody that literally. I mean, there would be blood, for instance. I know we've all talked about that before. There would be blood, and there is no pools of blood at all.
And the bodies were moved.
Yeah,
they were.
Oh,
if they're going to claim that David's bullet in the attic is his, which I do not believe, and I will never believe that it's his bullet, then his body had to have been moved for the trajectory to line up.
Absolutely. I mean, they said it went from left to right. So if it went from left to right, based on where the body's at, it should be out the window. And it's not. So, and even if we, were to say, oh, okay, we'll look at the one on the floor. Well, once again, you can look at the angle of the hole and where it end up, lodging itself in the basement. That doesn't make any sense either. So, there's like I said, there's definitely overstaged. I totally agree with that. Like, absolutely.
Excellent points there. Anything else on the toilet before we move on here? I know it's been a big hot issue with just everything about that toilet just seems strange, and we know that that was one of two toilets that had the lid open, so that is
Hmm.
one of two possible water sources for that dog. But obviously, looking at that image, there's no way the dog is gonna drink anything
Well, see, if we're
related
going to
to
be looking at like,
this. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, if we're going to be looking at like, for instance, like water sources, I mean, we might as well go and consider the food source for the dog.
right.
He's not going to be scarfing
Yeah.
on the bodies the whole time, especially when there's dog food there. No.
Hmm.
And the thing is like these were his owners. This is his family. There's been plenty of studies to show that a dog, once again, they get the taste of blood. They're not eating it. They're not eating at the bodies necessarily to survive. If there's another food source, they'll definitely consume that. Plenty of documentation on that one.
Mhm.
But when it comes to it, like for instance, they start with things like licking. If blood's already present, then they'll start on the biting and like tearing and stuff. They're trying to wake their owner up, because that's what they believe is going on. Even after the tearing, I mean, there's lots of studies that show that the dogs will still kind of more or less think their owner's still asleep. You know, these obviously aren't wolves. I mean, they even kind of showed that on a lot of studies that if the body's outside, if it's about hunger, they're going to go for the center mass. They're going to go with the organs there. This isn't about hunger. They're trying to wake their owner up. That's all it is. So I'm not buying it at all. I think Paleo was left there on purpose just to go and basically contaminate the crime scene. That's why he was left alive. I think that's the sole purpose of him on this one.
I'd also like to add that in the wild, if you're out hiking and you're looking or just doing your thing out hiking and you stumble across any type of a body, it's going to be the skull that's left,
Hmm.
because animals in the wild will not even eat the skull because it is too thick. So how do we have the skull being eaten here at the crime scene?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just another thing that I'm not going to buy.
No. I mean, it's totally like a legit thing there. The thing is, I mean, if you go even over the reports, all these different studies that all these like different like I'll bring one up here in a second, but basically everything I'd found on it was they will go for things like the nose, they'll go for the lips, the ears, easy ones to tear apart. A small dog like Paleo, I mean, could they technically break the skull? Yes, they could. He'd have to go from the bullet entrance. But then to just continually go and break it down like that, I don't think so. I mean, if he was really in there too, like for instance, let's just say hypothetically, we just play devil's advocate here, and we say, okay, yeah, he did eat the bodies. Why would he eat the skull? He has no motive. He has no reason to eat the skull. That's got no benefit for him. It would be much easier just to go for the brain. So once you're able to get into the brain, just eat the brain, right? But once again, is that really going to be something they're interested in? No, they're going to be interested in center mass. It's really after hunger.
Mm-hmm.
Which we don't see that in any of the three bodies.
Exactly.
Right.
And there's 2 points. One, we do know that he was chewing on some of those bones, so that's undisputed. He was doing that. Did he do all the damage? No.
No.
The second point is he barely touched Rania. Her face is not touched at all.
Yeah, that's
But
just
he
all
goes
like the
after
straight
the
decomposition.
Yeah, it's odd.
It's also random, right? It's kind of random what is touched. Like, would he finish one whole body, then go to the next? Why is he going after one of David's hands, not the other one, which is right there? It just seems way too random for it to just for all of that, for any of it really, for me to be blamed on this dog. That part I didn't really get. I know there are stories out there of dogs eating their owner or eating people, but if you have three bodies, is the dog going to go back and forth and just say, you know what, today I'm going to have a hand, oh, tomorrow I'm going to have part of the head, oh, you know what?
Human buffet.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It does
Well,
not make a lot of sense. Go ahead.
The toes are still on all the victims. That's
Yeah.
an easy thing for dogs to go after. Toes,
Mhm.
fingers,
That's true.
ears. I know this is extremely gross, and I'm so sorry to the audience, but it's something that's an oddity in this case that paleo did not go after.
Mhm.
And I mean, you hear it all the time where pit bulls or other types of dogs will go after the baby's toes and fingers.
Mhm.
Because they're right there.
Yeah.
You have a puppy. The puppy's chewing on your toes, or they're chewing on your fingers when they're playing. That's
Mhm.
just what they do. But they weren't touched in this case.
Yeah. Yeah, they
So,
generally, I mean, from what I've found, at least from all the different like studies and things, they go for the soft things. And so
hmm
on children, obviously, you're gonna have like softer bones, and I mean that's the thing. It's kind of odd. Why didn't Paley go
hmm
after, just the hands and the feet first, or the nose and lips and all this? Obviously, he didn't.
and I can understand the face. There's soft tissue there and stuff like that. I can understand the throat. That's
Hmm.
that's totally okay. I understand that. I'm not saying he didn't. What I'm saying is that he didn't do everything, especially with
Exactly.
2 bags of dog food sitting right there on the kitchen floor.
Exactly. And I
So
mean that
it
just
just
gives.
doesn't add up.
Oh yeah, it just gives more credence to you know, basically that he wasn't the full on one doing everything, and there was probably some things that happened. And I've even got a theory that I think somebody was coming back
Oh
and
yeah.
kind of just checking in on him. I mean, why else would the back door be open?
Isn't that
That's kind of,
dangerous
and
though? That's pretty dangerous for somebody to take that risk.
well, yeah, and that's the thing. It's it's very very it's a stupid thing to do. It really is. So I think this came down through the whole overstaging. Not to mention there was definitely blood on the back handle as well, the door. It just looked like it was a blood drop, but
Yeah, the doors were never tested. They were never fingerprinted. Nothing.
yeah. I mean, did they even? I don't even recall them actually testing David's footprint at all.
No.
So I mean,
Mm-mm.
that should have been something they would have tested. Not to mention they could go and take a look. Hey, does he have blood on the bottoms of his feet? On the outside, it would have been dried blood.
No,
And
the DME said that his toenails and feet were clean.
yeah. So right there, that just tells you he didn't do it.
Mhm.
Wait, who said that? Where's that
So
at? That the feet were clean in the
DME.
autopsy?
Mhm. In the autopsy,
let's see.
Oh,
that they were clean and well groomed.
and if they were bloody, would that have, or if there was blood on them,
Oh, she would have mentioned it
should have mentioned it. Interesting. I missed that one. This is why I love
because I
doing these
believe
talks
that she
here.
mentioned that there was blood on one of the hand that was left.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I need to get into the autopsy report.
Yeah, I'm gonna try
I mean,
to
that
pull
could have
that
also
up.
been from like him not just dying immediately from a headshot wound. Him like covering up the wound. Oh, good God, I'm bleeding. Yeah, my wife actually, she's looked at this. She's actually very, very intrigued by this. She hates that I admit this to people, but it's true. She's very, very interested, and she came to the same conclusion. And she hasn't even really looked at the entire case either. She hasn't seen the body. She doesn't want to see him either. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But she came to the same conclusion. She's like, no, he didn't do this. Chances are very, very unlikely. But she's also she was a psych major in school, and she does work with like people when it comes to this. So, I mean, I'm actually having her take a look at like psychological profiles of David and Kamel. See what she thinks.
How does blood even get on
Greg,
the feet? Yeah, go ahead.
the left hand has intact digits and is partially mummified. Fingernails are short and well maintained. Dried
Mm-hmm.
drips of red brown blood like substance on the dorsal left hand between the thumb and the first finger. And then we get to
The toenails are long but well maintained. Lower extremity symmetrical, intact. Yeah, I'd like to see more about the feet. Anything mentioned, but also how does blood even get on the feet?
He'd have to be walking through like the
Mhm.
body. He'd have to go walk through a pool of blood, or walking on her body, or walking through blood splatter or something. But once again, you can see that it's not disturbing the blood splatter either
Yeah.
on the ground.
You see
So,
blood splatter around the floors and stuff like that, and the only footprints that you see is right there, if they're footprints.
yeah.
And it's only 1 foot.
And
It's not
so,
like both feet either. So
Hmm.
and if there was blood, he would have had it on his feet. I mean, I even did a video in regards to that, and
Speaking
it
of something,
would
I
have
know.
been around the. Oh, go ahead.
yeah.
Oh no, no, go for it. Finish.
Oh, it would have been around the toenails for sure, because I had to scrub my toenails.
Absolutely. The one thing I was noticing is um, I know I don't want to go and say who it was. I don't know who it was exactly. I was reading comments from and talking to, but about the feet. Like Como had some shoes that um,
Look like
they had.
feet.
Yeah, they had those like the ones that are like meant for free toes or whatever it is. Those little special running shoes.
Hmm.
I'm still looking, but I don't see them.
At the house,
Hmm.
or you haven't seen a photo of it?
No, no, like at the crime scene, I'm not seeing those shoes.
No, I haven't seen them either, but we don't get a really great photo of their closets. We just see like the clothes hanging up.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Maybe we should go
But
back
I,
and take a look.
yeah, we should definitely go back and look. I would look at that very front closet as soon as you walk in through the front door. I don't know if there is a good photo of the bottom, but it looks like they had all of their socks. I'm sorry, all of their shoes either out in the front room
mhm.
next to the Christmas tree. So maybe in that front closet, if there are any, maybe that's where it would actually be. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for too. I'm not seeing anything
Yeah, I definitely didn't see that. That is a good
because those
point there.
shoes. I mean, if that is true and we got those shoes, I mean, they could have been grabbed and then that could have been done.
Hmm.
Just taking some blood from her head or whatever, getting some blood and then doing that.
Pretty interesting
Let's see.
stuff.
Let's see. It's not an AVPD at all, so
There you
let's
go.
see. Yeah, let's see. Are they up here? No. No, it's an iron. Ooh, actually. Yeah, I can say right now I don't see them anywhere. I'm looking in the closet and you can get a pretty clear view. Unless they are, nope, not even under the black jacket either. So, yeah, those are shoes I'm not seeing. Which, I mean, that could give some credence to those footprints because I'd like to see David's foot compared to the footprint. I'd like to see, once again, they clearly didn't, they checked and couldn't have been him because his feet were clean.
And let me see when that photo was taken. Looking it up.
But even then, I mean, we also got to be looking at too. It's like if his feet were under the blankets. So, did we check the blankets to see if there's any residue from his feet? Any kind of any blood on there as well? At least to show that it was on the feet.
That photo was taken almost a year before they passed away in April
Mm-hmm.
2014. So, I mean, anything could have happened to those shoes
That's
between
true.
then and.
But I mean, there's the other thing too. There's also ridges too, which I
Mhm.
think that was
Yeah,
you who
I
posted
agree.
that one. And so when it comes to the ridges, it does look like it could be somebody's feet. But then once again, we need to see the whole size of the foot.
Or it could be a hand.
I thought
It could
about
be.
that, but
Yeah,
I
it's
just don't.
just. It's, yeah, it's
Sorry.
weird.
Yeah, no, I looked at it. I was trying to go get like even my hand into a placement where that could make sense. The thumb you can get into the right placement, but the rest of it, because the ridges and all this kind of stuff, it doesn't make any sense. I've been trying to make sense of it. I can't get an actual like solid. Yeah, this could be a hand. I would actually say 100% it's not a hand, but I can say definitively just based on just the ridges. Like if you were to look at a hand and everything, you're seeing the ridges. You could see calluses. There's clearly no calluses. And even if you look at if you were to look compared it with the foot, there'd be ridges along that area, not necessarily calluses. So why is but that's the thing, we got ridges there, so that would basically show that it's a foot. But once again, I think what's going to be key with the feet is knowing the foot size. I think that would be the big thing here, is if we know the foot size, we can kind of determine, okay, how big were David's feet,
Right.
and then does this match? Well, we know for sure it's going to show it's not.
That's a long stride.
Yeah.
Stride too from the carpet, and if he's coming from the carpet, if these prints are coming from the carpet, I would think that a lot of the blood would have gotten wiped up just from his foot being on the carpet, and then getting here, it should have carried something to let us know that it was coming from an actual carpet. But I mean, I still think that they are footprints of the right foot. That's I mean, now when they put the whatever chemical that they spray on it, and they spray that, then they do start to look more like fingerprint, like a handprint actually. So just want to point that
I
out.
noticed that, but it would have, the only way that would work, potentially, once again, we're still missing the calluses, is if it was like Rania. That's the only would have been anywhere remotely possible, just based on the size. This is quite small.
It's true.
I also like to point out that blood is very slippery when you're walking on like wood floors and stuff like that, and you don't see any like slips or smear kind of thing. So they had to either brace themselves or something, because when I tried my experiment, oh my gosh, I about killed myself.
Right? I totally get that. It's
I was bracing against a wall just to get some clear steps. Now I used finger paint, so that's very possible that it could just be finger paint, but blood is still wet, and it was 1 foot, like Greg was pointing out, and they're walking from the carpet to the island area. So I mean, I don't know, I just would think that maybe they could have even slipped a little, and what were they bracing themselves on? Because there's just no way that they could have made that 2.5, 3.5 print.
Well, they have a measurement here looking at BCA 5013, and of course once they start spraying it, that's the other thing too, is you do see smears. We're not sure if those smears are just coming from whatever they're doing here. Are these blood? Is this blood that was potentially wiped up, and these two footprints, fingerprints, whatever, these two prints that are left, were those again not meant to be left? Maybe somebody was cleaning all of this up. But if you look at this area, if you look on the upper right, on the right hand side, and on the lower left, you can clearly see there's other smears. So I don't know if that is a result of what they're spraying here, or if by spraying whatever they were spraying here, does that show blood that was previously wiped up?
See, that smear should have gone forward, not backwards towards the ball of the foot. It should have gone forward and through the toes.
I see.
Because they're stepping, they're putting their weight on their foot, and they would have gone forward, because that's where the momentum is going.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you look at it too, on the what looks like to be the big toe, it looks like that was kind of pulled back, while the rest of them, they're intact, and you've also got it looks kind of like it almost like it was like a blood splatter mark where the middle toe or the toe next to the big toe,
Mm-hmm.
where that's at, it looks like it kind of like there was some blood splatter that was maybe possibly stepped in.
Hmm.
See, my theory on this is that people had laid some stuff down, and
Mhm.
then they killed him that way, and then got rid of that. So that would also show like the lack of blood. And I mean, the thing is like, where is it on the clothes? We're not seeing a great deal of blood there either.
That's true.
Which is another really strange thing because there would be blood on the clothes, you know. So especially after just kind of sitting there, there's gonna be blood there for sure, and there wasn't any. So that's another kind of issue I see here because with one footprint, where's the left foot? You know, there should hypothetically be blood on there as well. Especially moving around like this and moving throughout the crime scene.
Yeah. And then this one, BCA 5015, is just totally strange. This is the one that kind of looks like a hand print if we're looking at the right hand side, and then I don't know what the heck is going on here on the left hand side here, but it's all just completely out of place. And again,
Okay, now that's where the smearing, I would definitely see that there.
the
But it's in
smearing.
the toes, so
But is
yeah,
it from what they're spraying, or is it does the spray reveal some type of smearing?
I don't know. I'm not an expert, so I honestly can't say.
See, my question is, it's this part next to that smear, the big smear that looks like it's going through something else. That almost looks like a shoe print, like part of it.
On the left side here? Or
Mhm.
okay.
Kind of does. Either that or it's an arm, potentially. That doesn't look like anything close to a hand at all, or a foot. Like necessarily like a foot, but like it could be like a shoe, but not like a bare foot.
That's odd.
Where are the
Well,
dog
see-
prints?
Yeah, that's another good one. Where are those? Yeah,
I mean, you look
Yeah.
at everything, you don't see dog prints. There was
Absolutely.
blood on the wooden floors. And where are they?
Very good question.
He was there. We know that he was there.
Yeah. Do we know if he was there for the whole time though?
That's true too.
Well, if he's eating bodies, would there be blood everywhere? Would he have blood all over him?
See, and that's the thing. I looked at that. There would be some blood, and he would have blood on him.
On his
That's
mouth.
if he
I
just
believe.
kind of. Yeah, he would have some blood on him, from eating it at least. So, why isn't there blood on him? And then again, I don't recall seeing any pictures other than like maybe one or two throughout all the photos of him. But it was like I believe through the glass with some reflection on it, so we're not really getting a really good image of him. But even then, there would be a great deal of blood. Not to mention there would be footprints. There would also be. There'd be a ton of issues with that, but on top of that, the weird thing I found was that we're seeing that there was like hair and stuff drug up into onto the recliner.
Right.
It was just a small bit though. So I know I watched Catherine Michelle's video on the recliner, and it kind of being a double event. I don't think it was necessarily a double event though. I think this was like. It was a single event, and then something had carried some hair up there. It's randomly placed. It's not like necessarily directional. Not like somebody was shot and then there was some blowback and this landed here. No. That doesn't add up.
Could that hair or whatever we see on the recliner, could that have come from the dog?
I'm gonna be honest. It looks like it's long hair and it's long black hair. So I would say it's either Rania or it's Como. But I think, I mean, it's a possibility that he was just kind of just running around and happened to, drag it up there, potentially. But, I mean, that's if we go along with the theory that he was eating the faces, like, to the degree of, like, oh, there's no more heads. So, but because also you look at Rhaenyra, I mean, she wasn't really eaten up. So, if she wasn't really eaten up, then we can kind of assume that it had to have been Como, since police are accusing Paleo of eating the heads. So, which once again isn't too believable. So,
Well, there was a lot of hair everywhere too.
I mean, these clearly had some like scalp on it, though.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Anything else on that here? I mean, I don't know. 14, 5. People can look at those images and pretty much, decide for yourself what you think about it. But I don't know. There's so much that I'm still baffled about, that it just, every time that I feel like I'm moving forward, I feel like I have to take a couple steps back to kind of understand what the police did, what the investigators did, what they didn't do, and why they didn't do some of these crucial things. I know we had talked about the bullet hole in the living room ceiling, and I've probably been working at this for about a year now, trying to get the image where the police say that they see a bullet hole. Now, I've seen one image in the crime scene photos that we have. I've seen one image that you can possibly see where there is a bullet hole in the living room ceiling. And I was guessing that when I asked for this image, and they had promised to send me that image, I thought that they would send me the photo that we have. That's not what happened, though. First they send me the image that they took 1 month later, and I told them, no, I want the image from the date that the crime happened. When you guys were in the house, one month later, you came back and said, oh yes, we found the photo that shows where there was a bullet hole in the living room ceiling on January 17th when the bodies were found.
Yeah.
And so then they came back and they sent me a photo of the bullet hole in the basement ceiling. And I said, no, that's not what I'm asking for. That's not the image that I'm asking for. I was, it sounds like Will, it sounds like you're the image that you're talking about is probably the same one that I'm talking about. It's the only image that I can see that there is possibly a bullet hole in the living room ceiling on the day that the bodies were found. All they had to do was send me that one. That's what I was thinking that they were going to do. They still have not sent me any image that I've asked for yet. So I'm still waiting.
Yeah, I think they're just messing around. I don't think they're. Yeah, I don't think they're wanting to send it to you personally. I don't think they want to send anybody that photo because it's does make them look actually quite inept. And I get it; it's more of a small town here, but it's like, come on, man. I mean, you can't be like that blind, right? And
I personally don't think.
Oh, go for it.
I personally just don't think it exists. The one that he looked at in the police report and said, oh, yeah, there's an obvious defect. I personally don't think that photo exists.
I'm trying to find it right now.
Well, that would be a bigger issue.
It looks like it. It definitely does look like it. It matches directly where it's supposed to be at. But, I mean, once again, you can't see definitively, is this a hole? It looks like it could be a hole.
Yeah, if you can find the number, I'll try to search for it here too. But I know there's only
It's
one.
under BCA.
Yeah, it's got to be under BCA, and it's the image was taken from the kitchen, and you can see out into the living room, and it's the only one that could even show whether there was or whether there wasn't a bullet hole there, which is also curious too. When you think of all the images that they gave us, all the images that they took, I don't know. There had to have been multiple images of that
Oh yeah.
area. So why are we
Well,
only
see,
getting
the
one?
issue I have,
Yeah.
the big issue I have with this is, you can see the order in which they took the photos. So you can see they kind of just moved around. They weren't really focusing on a specific area, not for very long at all.
Mhm.
Which this doesn't seem super typical. I know it does happen. I've talked to some of my sources, and they're like, yeah, no, this does happen from time to time. You'll see this, but it's not super common. They usually want to go and fully document every last bit of that part of, if it pertains to the crime scene, they're going to go and take every last angle you can possibly get, basically.
Mhm.
And they didn't do that here. In fact, they've even got some really blurry photos, which, I mean, that's also a problem. But yeah, there's, like I said, it's just more and more inconsistencies. I think they just want to just slap this as a double homicide, suicide, to get this over with as quickly as possible.
All right.
I'm trying to find. I still don't see the photo.
Yeah, look up BCA 4408. This is the only one that I've seen where you can even get an image, get a clear view of that area. And so a lot of people, some people have pointed out right here where my cursor is. That's kind of the area.
Yeah.
Where they say that it is. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that that lines up with the images that we have from 1 month later. That would be the first thing. Now, when I spoke with Mason Hendricks, this was way before I had seen this photo that we're looking at now. He said that the reason why the cops didn't see that bullet hole is because of the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree was blocking their view. We can clearly see that that is a lie.
Oh yeah.
The Christmas tree is nowhere near that area, and it's not tall enough for that area too. And he said, well, they moved it. Even if they move this Christmas tree, moving it, you would think they would have to look up if they're going to move anything here. Yeah. And so they would definitely notice it there. It's right, if it's here in this area, it's right by that light, right next to the big glowing light. So there's some big problems there. There's a lot of problems there, not only with what a lot of people have told us. There's footprints, there's fingerprints all over this house. They all tied to David Crowley, which we know is not true. But it's just like lie after lie after lie, and they're just hoping that we'll just accept their lies and just stop looking into this case. But to me, this is the only image that could possibly show, and this is what I thought that they were going to come back and send me. And I was shocked when they didn't do that, because this is part of their images that they have. And like I said, one year later, I'm still waiting for it. So if they're watching, all you got to do is send me this image here, I guess.
So I know this is gonna be a little off topic, but this has just been just killing me here. I've been thinking about this for probably about a week. I know my wife we've talked about it, but it's a bit odd. But Como was labeled as she was wearing a corset. And my wife has told me there's the different types of corsets for there's the kind of ones that are kind of like weight loss kind of ones. There's also, of course, the typical ones we hear about with lingerie and all this. Did they actually directly say what type it was? I think this totally matters, because if it was let's say it's more kind of the lingerie type, we'd be looking at, okay, well, why is she wearing a corset in this scenario here? Unless maybe they were interrupted, maybe their sleep was interrupted, something. But if this is a weight loss one, that means she was still awake, or maybe it was just basically for just for the shaping kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not.
And like I said, I don't think it's super relevant, but I think there is some relevance when it comes to the case. I didn't see anything about it at all.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, I think I kind of glossed over it until one of our group members actually mentioned it. It was like, why is she wearing a corset? And I was like, I don't know. That's kind of odd. And then again, yeah, like you said, what type of a corset? Because I don't know anything. I mean, the only corset that I would know is obviously of a lingerie type thing. So I don't know. I mean, does that help us see what they were doing at that time? Does that fall in line with David and Kamel were busy doing something and somebody barged into the house and held them hostage or shot them all or
Exactly.
something like that? So if it's a weight loss thing, I could see that. Something like Spanx, or if there's certain
Hmm.
things that if she wears, then they'll kind of get some of that weight off. The only problem with that is they kept telling us how thin and how skinny Kamel and David were, and they wanted to make them both seem like they were both crazy. They lost weight, et cetera, et cetera. So what would be the purpose? What would be the purpose of her wearing a corset if it was related to weight loss? She was found at 85 pounds, I believe.
Yeah. See, the thing is that like I read over also like I don't want to like drag Sidra through the mud on this, but like some of these things, like I know that she was talking about, oh, you just look at the crime scene. Don't look at, you don't have to look at anything else. Just look at the crime scene. Focus there.
Hmm.
Well, clearly has no background to this, and she should, probably check into it before she really goes and starts saying things like that, because these things do matter. Having a psychological profile of
Hmm.
David and Kamel, absolutely crucial. Once again, does that mean we have to? We don't know them personally,
All
so
right.
digging through their emails that we've got access to, digging through videos of them, things like this, we can kind of put something together, right?
Hmm.
But
That's
the
right.
thing is like if we go off what she says, we shouldn't be doing it. But why shouldn't we be doing this exactly?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, does necessarily like the father of Kamel, does that really matter a whole lot? Not really. His psych profile doesn't really matter. Um, I don't think he did it. He's not even remotely on the suspect list. However, um, when it comes down to like, for instance, there was something I saw. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was actually on the exact same file you're looking at here. Um, I mean, if we don't know his personality, we don't need to know it. Then why is he talking about absinthe? You know, Once again, that is hallucinogenic to
Hmm.
some, but I wouldn't. I've never had any myself. I know people that have had it. My dad, for instance, and he's like, I didn't hallucinate at all. Um, he goes, he just basically got drunk. That's all his big thing was. But I've heard of people like my one of my buddies. He actually got he was hallucinating off it. Well, if that's true, then okay, was he hallucinating? Well, it didn't seem like it based on his what we can gather from his Facebook profile. It looks like he was very, very collected. He was very, very focused.
Hmm.
You know, and then if we're in once again, if this did pertain to, if it didn't pertain, then why was he skinny? We need to know this. Was he crazy, really? Well, we do need to know this. I mean, if it's a suicide, he killed himself and killed his wife and daughter. Knowing his psychological kind of profile at the time directly, that makes sense to know. So I just had a huge problem when all these people were like, oh no, it doesn't matter. Don't even look into this. Don't no, just focus on the crime scene. Just there you go. I mean, we can only find so much from that. We
Now,
can find majority
yeah.
of information, but some things don't add up unless we know what his mental state was or her mental state was.
Yeah, and if there are people that are staging this crime scene, it would make sense why they want to make sure that we only look at the crime scene that was staged by certain people.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
no. Now, I don't believe that Sidra was a part of staging any crime scene, but I do
No.
believe that she was duped, that she was tricked, that she surrounded herself with a lot of people that she shouldn't have, and I do believe that once the documentary
One
a
second.
sure once the documentary A Gray State came out, I do think that Sidra kind of started to understand some of those things and to understand that the people that she um, was taking advice from or was listening to, that they were full of crap. And so I do believe that she did eventually understand that. It took her a while to understand that, and I think the only reason she understood it is because they were trying to convince her that her sister was part of this crime too. And I think once they did that, that's what really got Sidra to understand that these people are not sincere, They're just trying
Yeah.
to make money off of this project, and they want to make my sister look crazy. So I think
Yeah.
once she realized that, which was the whole purpose, the whole documentary was supposed to make Kamel look crazy, and they did it. They did end up convincing some people. Thankfully, not as many as they wanted to, but there were some people that did still go with the thing that Kamel was crazy. There was a pack theory. David and Kamel were going to kill both of their kids. Were going to kill themselves and take their daughter with them. It's crazy
Yeah.
stuff here, without proof, without anything like that. And these are the same people that want us to prove that David Crowley didn't do this, while at the same time they can't prove that he did. So they can't have it both ways. But looking at here, page 357 of the 485 document, this is where the corset is mentioned, and yeah, it's just a corset. That's it, nothing else. So I don't know. I mean, it doesn't say what type of a corset. It doesn't say anything more about it. And in the evidence, of course, that page is flipped upside down a little bit, but I don't know. That's really it. It just says just a corset, literally. That's it. So.
Is your show still on out there? Can you go push play?
Well, a lot of people still believe that theory that Kamel was in on this delusion, and it was a shared delusion. It's like, how can you diagnose a person after the fact when
Right.
you have really nothing to go off of?
Okay.
I mean, seriously, if the journals existed,
Your light's charging, okay?
the police would have discussed it. They would have confirmed that with you, Greg,
That's right.
when you asked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just show up after the fact, and supposedly they went to the police, and the police weren't interested in them. I'm not buying that story.
Right.
There's a lot I don't buy when it comes to this case. But just like whatever that journal page that people keep saying is a journal page, it's not. It
Yeah.
is a copied thing. What is it? I'll Google it right now. Ed
It's like a pie chart looking thing. That thing you're talking
Man
about.
syndrome. Oh gosh, I spelled it wrong.
And they found hair on Kamel's sock too, on the outside of her sock. There's hair everywhere. How does hair get on her sock? I don't know. More stuff I don't understand. Hair removed from the upper portion.
Marriage
of pants.
Confidential.
What is it?
It is from Marriage Confidential.
Mm-hmm.
The Ed McMahon syndrome. The whole thing, the whole entire thing is from Marriage Confidential. Time Magazine had it. Wikipedia has it. It's a book. And they did an article, and the article was written on June 2nd, 2011.
What's the name of it? Marriage Confidential. What's the second part?
It's Ed McMahon syndrome,
Ed McMahon.
hyphen Marriage Confidential.
Sorry, my son just woke up.
It is why couples are more. It's something about stability, calm, semi-happy, predictability of marriage. And for some reason, when I click on it, it just gives me a whole bunch of ads. It's not giving me the article. It's like it's blocked or something.
There's a book by...
we tried
Ed
DuckDuckGo.
McMahon syndrome is so eager to maintain a stability, calm, and semi-happy predictability of the marriage that he or she will agree to just about anything his or her spouse says. But it's a book, and they literally took That journal page are notes from that book.
Interesting.
It is like copied and pasted from that book and from the articles into the journal page. It's not even original thought.
That's the one with the little pyramids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty weird. I was trying to see if I could find an image of that online somewhere. I see a book. There is a book by what's Pamela Hague. That's as close as I can find to it, though. And that was somehow supposed to show that David was guilty. Is that what it was? It's been so long, I forget.
Yeah, it was
exactly
supposed to be proof that David was abusive.
Oh, okay, right.
And that he could be guilty of this crime.
Right.
And that Camille was seriously thinking about leaving him. But Camille did counseling.
Which shows that they were
very well.
Yeah, it shows they were trying to work on the marriage.
If that's even what it was for. It could have been a project that she was working for classes.
True.
It could have been anything. We have no date, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no context to the papers. We are just told, hey, this is her journal and given to us. We don't know that because we don't have the journals. We don't even, there's no context to it.
Yeah, and that's a great point about there not being any context and no date, because a lot of the stuff that people are trying to use to point towards some issues that help them prove that David Crowley is guilty are not dated. The dates go far before any of the crime happened. It's just a lot of stuff like that. They're just throwing stuff at us to just, it's out of desperation is what it seems like, to just try to get you to just think, okay, if they can plant any type of seed in your head to make you doubt that David Crowley might not be guilty, which is, that's a propaganda case here of what they're doing. But
and
yeah, I can't find that much on that.
And to piggyback what you were saying, in the documentary or propaganda film,
mm-hmm.
they're showing recordings and clips, and this is just what they are. They're clips. They're highly edited clips, by the way. And if you look at them, these are filmed years before they killed, or before they were died, or before they were killed. Sorry, I'm getting a little too passionate about this, and I can't talk now.
Oh,
but
okay.
Look at the dates for the recordings and for the videos that are shown in the propaganda documentary, sort of quotation marks around the documentary, because some of these were filmed like 6 months to years before they died.
Mm-hmm.
But they're leading the audience to the end, and then they died. David killed himself and killed them. And this is their proof of them declining, when in reality, these were done years and months before they died. Like the whole rapture thing, and I'm using quotation marks on that because, number one, there's no context to it. It's edited, so we don't even have the whole clip. We don't know what they were really discussing. So that was filmed at the end of October. If they were going to snap and that led to their death, don't you think that they would have done this a lot sooner?
So my theory on this is that I've got a feeling there's something connected to what Allison and Como talked about, and I want to see if that matches up. But I think, me personally, I think they were doing good by this point. The way that Como was very, very defensive of David,
Mhm.
I feel like that's more of a sign of, okay, we're doing much better. We've got our own stuff we're working on here, but obviously there were some issues we don't even know about with, David's family, his siblings. We don't. I mean, I couldn't find anything at least directly telling us what they had done and why David really he wanted to have a better relationship with his sister, but he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't have a good relationship with his brother. I read through, I think it was like an earlier paper he had done about his family,
Mhm.
and it didn't, and like he sounded like he had some respect for his sister, but it sounded like he had quite a bit of at least annoyance of his brother. I would argue he
Animosity.
did, yeah, like he didn't like him. It seemed like he really didn't. So, but if you look at the photos, they also tell a slightly different story. But then again, I mean,
Mhm.
I don't have a solid relationship with my sister. Like her and I don't get along. But when it comes to my kids, I'm super cordial with her. So could I take a family photo with my sister there? If my kids are there, yes. No kids, no. um, you know. So I don't know. I mean, I think knowing that plays a bit of a factor in this as well. Um, when it comes to David and Como's relationship, you know, maybe not like a huge degree, but I do feel like it does play a part.
I'd like to add about relationships with siblings. I'm adopted, and
Mhm.
I was raised with a brother, but he was 9 years older than I. Sorry, my cat's scratching on the couch.
No worries.
9 years older than I was, and I had nothing in common with him. So he was just a different generation. And uh, my sister and I grew up together, but like I said, I'm adopted, and our personalities were so different. We just tried to kill each other the whole entire time. And to this day, I'm not close to my brother, and I'm not close to my sisters. Uh, we talk, we'll text every now and then, but that's about it. My sister lives, one of them lives right here in town, and I only see her on holidays. And we text maybe once or twice a month. That's just how we are.
Hmm.
We have nothing in common. And, but, I love her. and, but going back to uh, Allison, they were there for the birthday party in August,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that Allison was also involved in some of the videos that David had filmed and are on the hot web in the Hothead YouTube channels.
Mm-hmm.
She's in some of those videos. I know the bitch. She's the news reporter for that one, and something else. I know that she was in the second one.
Well,
But
and
those
also,
videos.
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for it.
The videos are very revealing about how David is, because especially the live streams, those go on for a very long time, and there's no way anybody can act for that long.
No.
And he's not the person that everybody was describing and have been describing, because there's no way that anybody could keep that up for that long. Oh, what's up? So I just would like to suggest to people to go and watch the bullet exchange videos, the
Mhm.
hothead videos, and even the live streams for Gray State, because they're very revealing about David and possibly what person that he was and what he wasn't.
Well, I mean, even to some degree, I feel like when David was casting people, like I don't recall seeing his sister in the videos at all. But I also haven't finished all of the Hothead production videos yet. But but if he was casting her for like a specific type of role for her to kind of, portray, I mean, when directors cast people, they usually cast them for a role based on what they can act as. So if somebody can act, if somebody's like really like, I'm trying to think of a good one. Like if somebody's like a really, really good kind of monotone person, throwing them in as like a news reporter kind of makes sense. If they're
Mhm.
kind of, um, snarky, you can always throw them in, especially if they're not trained actors. Then you've now got something to kind of work with. Then you can kind of throw them in that role they already throw themselves in, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that kind of in a way can kind of tell how he views people that weren't necessarily trained actors, kind of like the roles they can kind of be in, especially if they're put in more of kind of a role that actually is named or that has some degree of relevance.
Yeah, it does seem like he
Well,
gave people a lot of, people that maybe wouldn't get that chance. Like he gave a lot of people chances to just get on camera to, try to work on their creative side. And we often hear many stories about that, of people that he has helped out too. So
Hmm.
he was helping out a lot of people, giving people chances that they might not have otherwise gotten. And I think that's just, it just shows what type of person he was. And maybe he let the wrong people into his circles.
Oh, that
yeah,
totally happened.
I agree.
I
But
mean, let's look at August Mason here.
yeah,
Enough said.
they met in school. So that's, and then they got involved in the hothead company and everything. So it's like Danny Mason was kind of there. He was there for a long time, I believe, starting in
Hmm.
2010. Um, so that was another curious thing too. These are, a bunch of kids going to school, and they kind of meet up. And from what we know, a lot of the theories that David would kind of grasp onto later, maybe, were, a lot of them were, uh, these are things that Danny Mason told David Crowley and Mitch Heil that they should check out. I don't know if Danny Mason was doing that because they were soldiers or what, but at some point, it seems like a light clicked on in David's head. And it was like, once he realized that, once he made the tie between all the stuff that he had seen in the service and all the stuff Danny Mason was showing him, it just seemed like he was off to the races then, and just never looked back. And it's like a snowball effect.
Hey, one sec, I gotta go and take care of
Okay.
an issue with the children.
No
One
problem
second.
here.
I was like, that's not my house right now. Everything's quiet here.
But going
It
back
wasn't
to
earlier.
David's sister, you know, I don't know what the problem was. I don't know how big the problem was, how small the problem was, but whatever the problem that they were having, it didn't stop David's sister from trying to get them to go to the Thanksgiving family function, to the Christmas function. So I don't know. I don't really think there was that big of a problem. I don't know what the problem was, if it was just some family squabbling, which is kind of what it seems like, um, looking at the messages going back and forth from what David's sister sent to David. David doesn't answer, and then the correspondence between David's sister and David's wife. I don't know. I never really made that much out of any big issue there. But the one thing that did stand out to me was David's mom, and the fact that
Hmm.
David's mom was concerned that they were dead. And then, of course, a couple months later, they end up dead. That's enough. And then she ends up dead too. And it always just made me wonder, did the mom, what did the mom know that maybe nobody else knew? I don't know. I think she was on to something. I think she knew something even when David was still here with us. I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah, because she seems, you will see her calls, I don't want to say more frantic, but her calls to them pick up more and more the closer to the day of their bodies being discovered.
And they're very late night calls, right? These are...
I don't know if those times were actually legit times or not, because it just seems so off. It's like, who in the world calls somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning?
Well, based on her last job, that could have been when she had gotten off work, possibly. If she's working at a 24-hour quickie mart type place or whatever, like a gas station or whatever you want to call it. Maybe she had just gotten off shift, hadn't heard from David, and maybe that's why we get those late night calls. I don't know, but I just thought that was kind of weird. The times on those timestamps for those calls do really stand out to me, and why he wasn't calling her back, or why he didn't ever get back to her, is also another strange thing. There's a lot of strange things like that, though, that haven't really helped me understand. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just turn my phone off, or I don't turn it off. Legit, I just turn the ringer off,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it like that. And when I'm ready to talk to people, I just put it on vibrate. So there's chances that I still miss phone calls.
Well, this is,
I turn around and call them back. He didn't even do that.
This is also when David is supposed to be working on a treatment for a TV series. So everything that he's been working up until September of 2014, all that is done. At September of 2014, David has to start all over now. He has to rework everything that he's been doing since 2010. He has to rework that into a treatment for a TV series. So I can understand why he's like, you know what, I need to focus on this. This is a big thing for him. What the whole opportunity that David had during this time is something that many of us will never ever have. That many of the Gray State team and the Gray State Goons, they will never have that shot. David had a good shot to make something very powerful here, something that would not only help him, not only help his family, help his future, help everything that he's been building towards. There's a reason why David took film school. He was, you could see he was very serious here. And then for everybody to just say that he just snaps, that he, lost it, that the project was dead, all of that makes them all look like fools. Because either they had no idea what he was really doing, they didn't know much more than any of us do, or they did and they're lying about it.
He was working on other projects too. We have another movie that credits him. What was that movie, Greg?
There's a couple of
Into the Void.
Into the Void is a powerful one. Yep.
So we have different movies that he's credited for that he worked on. Some that he's credited for even after he died.
Right.
That he did work on. Shockwave, Into the Void, Detective, Pandemic.
Yeah, the Pandemic one is pretty eerie.
Eden.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of different things that he's been credited for.
Mm-hmm.
But he was working on projects. He was filming things, just like he filmed the concert for the gentleman who passed away from cancer, the rare cancer, and then they made the movie The Clouds,
mm-hmm.
and it's on Disney now. He filmed that whole concert thing for them, and he's also filmed other concerts. He was doing work on the side that did not involve any of the other Gray State guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
He knew a lot of people.
So,
Yep. Had a lot going for him.
Yeah, he definitely did. I mean, he's got quite a few different things that he was definitely doing, but it's that's the thing. It's like you can tell even from the timeline. I'm trying to go over that right now. But there's the timeline. Like it didn't even like his family didn't know what was going on. Obviously, none of his even all the way down to his supposed best friend of Mitch Heil, he didn't even know what was going on. None of them did. And the only ones that really did were going to be Kamel and him. And even then, I'm not even convinced Kamel even knew everything. Like, to some degree, I don't think she even fully knew everything that he was actually doing. Especially with like Gray State, I think she knew most, but I think there was parts that were just kind of up in David's head still, or he wasn't necessarily sure of him even himself. So.
and he was
So he
working on other projects too. He was working on other books, and
Mm-hmm.
he had things that he was taking notes for other projects and everything. And Camille was working on her own things. I believe that she wanted to
Mhm.
do a book. Was
Mhm.
that right, Greg? That
Yeah.
she wanted to do a book?
Yes.
And I seriously, I will say this over and over and over. I do believe that they were going to move. And I believe that is why she gave up her state license too, because she's not going to need it in California.
Yeah.
And so I think that they were getting ready for that. They had mortgage companies that were running their credit checks. They had calls from California, from a realtor, things like that. So
Yeah, they're getting ready to bounce. That's basically what it was.
yeah, and Camille and David were not against Miss Alam's treatment. In fact, they also called the charity, and I can't remember exactly when this was on the old phone number. I have to look for the dates on that. It's such a huge file. But they actually had called and talked for quite a while with this charity that was helping to pay for Miss Alam's treatment. So, I mean, if they were super against it, I do not think that they're the type of people that would call and sabotage that for her mother. I mean, I'm just not going to buy that excuse.
Yeah.
I mean, on the flip side, I mean, they could still be against it, but we're supportive. I mean, that's what family's there for, right? They're going to be supportive of each
Mhm.
other. And it sounded like, based on everything we know about, David's relationship with the family, it sounded like they actually had a really, really good relationship.
Correct.
So
now that would all depend on who you talk to. You talk to some people and they say, "Oh no, David called up Kamel's dad, yelled at him, was cussing at him." Well, Dan Hennon spoke with Kamel's dad, and Kamel's dad was like, "No, nothing like that ever happened. They had their disagreements, but there was no screaming matches. There was nothing that was in the early news reports. None of that turned out to be true." But none of those people have ever retracted any of those statements. They've never said what their sources were. I know who their sources were. I'm sure everybody here can guess who their sources were, and those sources were wrong. Well, by the time that Eric Nelson's film came out, people should have known that. They should have known that a lot of this stuff is not true, but they still ran with it. It was the same story. It was the same script. It was the same stage crime scene that we had been dealing with since 2015. All these people that are telling us they've seen the documents, they've seen the photos, they know all of this stuff. When you look at the documents, they do not line up with anything that these people are saying. And that's why a lot of people think that they are just either liars or they have been fed false data, or they have been tricked. whatever it is, uh, there's nothing, there's just nothing there to prove David Crowley guilty. And I don't know how long we have to keep saying that for the investigators, for somebody to really take notice and do something about it, to just realize some of these simple things. But obviously, it's going to take a lot more than that. They're not going to do it unless they are forced to, and that's pretty much where we are now. Is
I mean, even with the petition, they're not going to look into it again.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean,
I just don't think that they are.
Yeah.
I think the case is closed, and that's that. They don't want to, or they're not going to because somebody above them has told them not to.
I think that's actually what it is right there. I think that's got to be true, because why would it be so open and closed, and why would the chief be so much for this is what it is, this is how it was, everything was covered, but it seemed like it was the exact same narrative that was being spouted by previous parties before anybody talked to him directly. And
Yep.
I don't want to get on like the whole tinfoil hat here or anything, but I mean, it is quite the elephant in the room with that Freemason connection. I don't think there's any necessarily saying that yes, it was for sure, but it's the whole thing that we're seeing that a lot of these parties that they're basically suspected to be involved have some kind of connection. Even like, why was Danny Mason looking at this stuff? I mean, granted, people could just be like, oh, I just found this and this is interesting, but the thing is that this guy actually had Freemasons and stuff like in his circle already prior to even meeting David. So,
and the interesting thing is he doesn't even have it in his script. The two versions that we have, the whole Freemason thing is not even in there. So I'd love to know why he took it out, but I guess we'll never get that.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we can all guess as to why, but
well,
look at
David does mention that a little bit when he's talking with is it Alex Jones? I think it is with Alex Jones, and he does mention that the whole guillotine thing, all of that is not going to be in the script, and he's saying this while Danny Mason is right there. And it always made me think, okay, why was that even there? Like, why would you even put that in there? Who wanted that in there? And to me, that's one of the most strangest things, is to see a Mason, the Masons that are chopping people's heads off. What the heck is going on there?
It's
I don't
part
know.
of the whole FEMA thing. The guillotines and everything. It was all part of some type of FEMA thing that was a part of the Obamacare. At least that's what I've heard. I haven't actually seen the actual proof of it being in there.
Yeah, I'm still looking at it myself.
At least that's what Alex Jones was peddling back in the day. He might still be peddling it. I don't know.
I mean, he peddles a lot, so.
You're right.
Yeah, a lot of snake oil too. I'm going to say that, but But the thing is like, I mean, I'm not gonna say sit here and like bad mouthing Alex Jones, because I mean, he does bring up some points that are very valid about kind of what's going on. Some things that have actually taken place. You can actually research and find the documents yourself and see them. It's actually quite interesting. But he goes about things in the most obscure yet memorable way. I mean, who doesn't know about Alex Jones? Everybody's, oh, he's crazy, he's crazy. Well, why does everybody remember that? He does it in that way, and everybody remembers something he says. So, do I think he's acting to some degree? Yes, I do think he is. But I think there's something up with Alex Jones when it comes to this, because we do see the InfoWars connection not only with Alex Jones himself tied into this, but he also didn't really cover much about this. He just basically said, "Oh, yeah, I think he briefly touched on it and said something along the lines of, this is double murder, suicide." I think he had briefly said something about it. I can't prove that, as I don't know for sure, but I'm still looking about that. But
it was
we've also got the
Yeah, it was he mentioned there was a caller. Somebody had called in a couple days after this and kept trying to ask Alex Jones, and Alex Jones just would not go there. He kept bringing up this other case, and it was just weird. You have to listen to that. Man, I wish I don't know if I still have that, but it is one of the weirdest things for Alex Jones, because it just seems like either he was caught off guard or he just did not want to talk about David Crowley. He wanted to talk about this other case where this guy was killed, and they said that he killed himself. But it was always very curious. For me, that was pretty much the last time that I thought, okay, I'm not going to waste any more of my time on Jones, because he obviously does not care about David Crowley. He doesn't care to look into this simple case. Joe Biggs did, and then we saw what happened with Joe Biggs soon after that.
He wanted to take it, is what it was.
Yeah, that was weird.
He saw that was a good opportunity. And,
yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've been wanting to meet Joe Biggs. I do want to speak to him specifically about this because his connection to this is very, very peculiar.
Yes.
Why all of a sudden was he now talking to Danny August Mason? Why was he wanting to get involved with this? The thing is like working with Alex Jones, you'd assume he would be like, we need to expose, exactly what David was trying to expose. But all of a sudden he's meeting up with somebody who's got these Freemason connections, and he's a former InfoWars employee. I don't think he was former at the time.
No, he was a current. Yeah, he was with them, but he's also a soldier too. Joe Biggs, the way that I see it, he started out actually doing what Alex Jones should have been doing. Joe Biggs was on a local show here in Fresno, and basically laid it out. He said, look, the first thing that you do is you go to his Facebook profile, you check out all of the last things that happened on his profile. He's going through this step by step, and it's like, this is great. This is exactly what we should be doing. And then all of a sudden, there's a video that comes out with Joe Biggs. He's drunk. There's a security guard that chokes him out, or he gets into this fight. It's this really weird video. And then all of a sudden, he's working with Danny Mason, and this is in 2016, and now he's no longer with Alex Jones. He's working with Danny Mason, and they're going to make Gray State. And they film a couple scenes in front of a green screen. They try to shop it. It obviously fails, and that's pretty much it. That was the last that I heard of Joe Biggs until all this recent stuff.
Yeah, see, I thought that was also interesting because he's like supposed to be this ultra patriot, basically, this really patriotic individual. But if you look at what he's spouting now, you'd figure he would be all for trying to go and really trying to go and bring to light what exactly happened with David, because David was, in my opinion, I felt like this is just kind of how I took it, at least based on how he spoke. Very, very pro-America. He wanted, he basically wanted America first, which, everybody's got their own opinion on it, but it's the fact that he wanted. He wanted prosperity here. He wanted people to be doing well and all this. And Grace, I don't know how to explain it. It just basically doesn't add up.
No.
Between Joe Biggs to David, it doesn't add up. Other than they were soldiers, that's it. But the way it kind of seems like he was just trying to take the project, make it into a giant movie career. It's kind of what it seemed like to me. Yeah, especially as they went and got that one actor, who Elvis. Obviously Yeah, that Elvis guy. I'm like, what? I was like, this guy. They had some previously trained people that they know how to use the weapons. This guy obviously is just kind of holding it in a way that is no, I'm calling BS on this.
Well, he was. I think he might have been a part of some of the earlier Gray State project or something. He may have been a part of some of that. So he may have been involved in the 2012 trailer, possibly in some of those scenes here.
And that's it. I was thinking the same thing. That's why I started to run through the trailer. I didn't see him at all in it.
Johnny Elvis. Yeah, he
Mhm.
there's a couple scenes where Danny Mason is fighting in this alley, and I think Johnny Elvis possibly maybe one of those people,
One of the
or
masked police
yeah,
officers.
yeah, one of those masked people that Danny Mason is fighting, possibly.
That would explain why I didn't see him then.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. But but no, it's just I found it really odd. As if he was a part of it, then he would know how to hold the gun properly. He would know, what would happen in these certain types of situations, how to act it out.
Sure.
And I mean, you look at Joe Biggs, you look at the gun he's got, the way he's holding it makes sense. Elvis, no, not really.
Yeah.
So
And see, everybody that David trained knew how to do it correctly.
exactly.
So you look, yeah, because he was training all his friends. He was employing people, or not
Mhm.
employing. People were paying for his training,
Hmm.
and that's on the BX. So that was, I never even knew that existed until it was pointed out to me months ago, and I was like, wow. I mean, I'm learning more stuff about him, and that's great.
Yeah. I mean, he was, like I said. I mean, like, you look at it and it's like he was very level-headed. I mean, he was. This is not the. I mean, granted, I mean, I can't really get into the whole PTSD part because, I mean, that's. I'm trying to remember the word my wife used. It's cyclic.
Hmm.
It's something that kind of just, it can just happen. Spur of the moment, type of thing. Me personally, I don't know much about it, so I can't
Mhm.
really attest to it a whole lot. But, um, it's one of those things that I've had friends that are in the military and they can't even. They like, there's certain parts of their deployment they can't even talk about. And the fact, like, I think that's also part of the problem here too, is the fact that Mitch Heil, like, he's like, oh, he didn't have it sounded like he was basically saying he doesn't have PTSD, but he always reverted to talking about this, didn't want to talk about these other parts, kind of alluding to, well, he has PTSD. And then it kind of seemed like it was like two people doing it at least, Danny August Mason and Mitch Heil. Me personally,
I'm
I
never
mean,
going to believe that he had PTSD, especially when his job was around guns, shooting guns,
right,
training people, and doing movies like a Great
exactly,
State. I
exactly,
would
and
never
especially,
believe that he had that.
well, even then, it's like he was also, like, some of the scenes he was shooting,
Mhm.
um, they most likely would have triggered something. Not to mention, if you look, there was explosions, all this. If he really had it, I would believe that those explosions, fake or not, would be triggering. Because, I mean, if Mitch Heil's, what he's saying is true, just to the part where he didn't want to talk about the rest of his deployment, but he kept going back to this Humvee, um, part that happened. Then, I
Mhm.
mean, maybe he was traumatized, but maybe he's found a way to deal with it. So, does he have PTSD? I would say probably not. Especially if he's able to handle explosions, he's able to, the guns, these different kinds of scenarios and all this he put in his script and all this. He wouldn't be able to handle those if that were true.
Mhm.
So,
Correct.
I mean, like I said, especially if we're going to go and look at, okay, well, he keeps reverting back to this one event that happened with the Humvee, then explosions would be like a huge trigger for him, and it didn't seem to be. He's got plenty of explosions in his trailer and in some of the other footage he shot. So I don't buy it at all that he had PTSD. I think they're just
Mhm.
trying to go and swing it that way to basically show that he had some kind of diminished mental state. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think when, like, even if you go through the emails that Allison talks about, I mean, she's like straight up talking crappy. I mean, she's got a problem with him. She doesn't, for somebody that's so crazy about David too and all this. I mean, she's also, there's another issue there too. You know, why is she saying these things? Why does mom think that he died? Based on what, of course, that Allison has stated. I mean, there's a lot of things in this that just don't make sense as to why are they pushing this. David is like either suicidal, he's like this hermit, he's crazy, PTSD. I mean, it all seems like it's the same narrative. They're just trying to push that he has this deteriorated mental state. He's crazy,
Are
and
you
he's going to go.
referring? Are you referring to the email exchange between Allison and Kamel?
Yeah.
Okay, because I haven't seen an actual interview of her discussing it.
No, I'm just going off the email here, and it's just, I
I
don't
think
know.
she was
I mean,
highly annoyed at them at that point.
oh, I'm sure that was part of it, but it's like, I mean, granted she was annoyed because her mom kept calling, but she had to put it bluntly this way. It's one thing to bar your siblings from your life and goings on, but when your mom calls me weeping and convinced that you're dead, blah 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 blah. That to me, annoyance, sure, but that tells me right there she's not really crazy about him. It's one thing to bar your siblings from your life. She didn't seem to care. So once again, in a later email, when she says she's absolutely crazy about him, I don't believe it, not for a second. Especially after the way she had spoke to him, I don't believe it at all.
And they used to hang out together.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I'm curious as to what this event is, though, that made it so David. I mean, Como actually directly said that, basically, let me bring it up real quick. Where did it say that? Okay, so it was something about like basically sent the email to David on her birthday. And she said, carefully take in each word you accused him of and imagine your brother's face, and if you have any godforsaken love left for him, you'll be forced to imagine the face that cried to you, trying to show you his heavily burdened heart back in August. Well, what's the heavy burden? I'm very curious about that. And I do, like I said, I think this plays into the mental state here. And then she goes on, and I'll censor myself on this, but she said, stop pretending your blank ups are forgotten by others just because your mind has chosen to get over it. What exactly happened? And that's the thing. I feel this is crucial. For one, if his brother really is innocent, I feel this would kind of shine more light on what happened. Was it truly something that would drive somebody going, to get rid of his brother and his family? I feel like I feel like this is the reason why I consider him a suspect here, is partially because of this by itself, not to mention all the other things, him getting paleo, which, I mean, it's kind of weird still, but I feel like there's a lot of issues when it comes to that. It's just this email alone just already kind of shows she's been trying, Como's been trying to be kind of quiet about this. Hey, I don't want to spell it out for you, but you guys are kind of messed up. So.
Well, they were all there for the birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. And so I'm wondering, is it something that could have happened after the birthday party? And because we're looking at several months later during this email exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
something had to have occurred after that.
It all happened on Kamel's birthday. That's kind of where, at least if you're just looking at these documents here, looking at the 94 pages here, that's pretty much where it all stemmed from, is what it seems like. Go ahead.
Oh, I think something happened prior to August. This is basically based on what the email is saying. I think something happened prior to August, and at least just with Allison, and she was basically trying to, she just got over it essentially, and that it actually bothered, David to like a huge degree, and he wanted to go and talk to her about it, but it didn't seem like she wanted to hear any of it. But I think you're right that something happened after.
Yeah, if we look at,
and the only thing major that I could think of is the whole withdrawal thing from the bank account, and then David making those phone calls to Wells Fargo that following Monday.
Was that a joint account, like between the siblings, or?
It was a trust fund, but I think only Dan Sr. had the capability to withdraw money. I don't know. I'm going off of. I'm just repeating what Dan has told me.
Mm-hmm.
I know nothing about trust funds. I'm not that lucky. And So, and I haven't worked in that field. My sister has, but I haven't. And so, I don't know.
Interesting. I mean, it would make sense as to why David would be like, "Hey, what is going on with this?" And why that would be something upsetting. But it's curious why $50,000. Also the other thing that I also saw too was they also mentioned the timeline that where is it?
Yeah, looking at probably around the timeline from David's family that they give.
Yeah, there's another part in there where it talks about I don't know exactly why this is mentioned. I mean, this is kind of odd. I don't know who said they text him. I'm assuming it's the father. It says, on November 28th, I text him. I got a bill from his lawyers, Loman Abdo. Why is he getting the bill?
Because that's where
They had David's.
yeah, that's where David had his mail sent there. So I don't know why.
Oh,
That is interesting.
that's interesting.
Maybe he didn't want some
But
people
even
to
See,
then, I
know.
mean,
I'm not even sure that those even happened. When you see, I called David, I text David, those kind of things, I'm not even sure how much of that actually happened when you check it against the phone records, both phone records.
yeah,
Right,
we
Um,
have access to that, correct?
yes.
We do.
Oh, okay, sweet. I'll have to go and run through that tonight then.
But see, if David's dad is texting David on November 7th, if he's texting the old phone, it's not going to show up on David's new phone.
Oh, that's true.
So I think
That is true.
there's a lot of people that are kind of that might be especially David's dad, which is weird because if there's this issue between David and his brother, why is David's brother the first one to get David's new phone number? So I just don't think that
Yes.
there's this big family issue. I just don't see it. And maybe that's because we're missing it, but this is the document. This is what David's family gives to the cops. This is what the cops go off of. So based on that, unless there's something else that they hid from the police, I'm not really seeing what the big family issue is here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
Did
the
they
thing. That's
take-
what. Mhm.
Did they do this right then and there when they were talking to the police, or
No.
did they
No.
bring it later?
They brought this
Brought it
later.
later.
Yep. And this was actually given to the police by David's brother. So this is kind of, it looks like this was written out maybe between David's dad, brother, sister, but this will ultimately get filtered from David's brother to the police.
See, no, it was sent to him by email. So I mean, it was probably typed up, but
Yeah.
but even then, it's like,
It goes in and out where it's like some of this is like it's from David's dad, and then at other points it's not from David's dad. So it's a little hard to follow at some points here.
yeah, I mean, they could have easily just organized a little bit better, like who they're, who's speaking, or they could have just simply put, this is what this person did on this day.
Well, and there really
Um,
isn't much here that would help explain, the good side of David and their family. It is a lot of the negative that we see here.
Well, like if you look at like 9/21/14, it's obviously clearly the dad. They're talking about like how he had taken Renia to the zoo,
Mm-hmm.
and then when he got back, he's like he was about to make a big movie deal, and they go into like detail about it for the most part.
Right.
If you look at the rest of everything else that's posted, I mean, nothing really got in that big of a detail thing except for the emails. So, I don't know. To me, that just kind of seemed a little odd. Some of the other things could have had more detail to them. Like, for instance, so Dan Jr. and Como correspond regarding possible job opportunities. So, were they looking for jobs together? I mean, some of the things I have some questions about on this. Just
Right.
for that alone, like, so if there is this big blow up, I mean, between the brother and, let's see, where is it? I think think it was after. The other thing I was also curious about. So and this is a little off topic here, but when it comes to the alums, like Comel's mom, if you go off the emails, it makes it kind of seem like the Crowley family knew. Like, I'm not talking like David and Renee and them. I'm talking like the brother, the father, all this. They all knew about Comel's mom's cancer. Just kind of based on the email. I mean, at least Allison does for sure. We get confirmation of that, but it just kind of seems like if Allison knows, she would most likely talk to, the dad, the brother, most likely. So, but that also brings up the whole number. If Allison got a hold of it or Dan got a hold of it, why didn't everybody else get it? Why wasn't? I mean, I can bring up numerous questions, and I'll go off on a tirade, so I won't keep going. But there's a ton of questions I have just based on the timeline here. It's just like it doesn't add up with the timeline we know happened. For instance, why is Daniel? Why is he setting up the fund? Having it go directly to him to deal with for the alums. That doesn't make any sense either.
No.
How did he? I mean. As I could have sworn, he had stated that he didn't even know until like roughly after the deaths of his brother and family that's when he had found out about the alums with the mother being in cancer treatment. I could have sworn that's what it was stated, but I could be mistaken.
Greg, was that a memorial fund or was that for the mother?
That was for the mother. It was for the mother, yeah. It was like $6 million or something they wanted to raise, and it made absolutely no sense. And
not to mention.
Yeah.
Do we have screenshots of what that fundraiser actually, the description of the fundraiser?
Yeah, because Dan Hinnon actually, I think he donated some money to it, and that could be on the Ugly Truth. That could be on Dan Hinnon's website, but yeah, there should be that. I don't know if it's still up or not.
A certain somebody is saying that it was a memorial fund.
No, it was not a memorial fund. It was for Camel's mom, definitely. Yeah.
It is amazing that people even believe anything that she says nowadays.
Well, it's, why even lie about it? I mean, the fact that people are lying about it shows why people don't take them seriously. And then they try to play a victim when they're caught in lies. Well, if you don't lie about it, you don't have to worry about people coming after your lies. It's that simple. So.
Yep.
Just be honest.
See if I can find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right here. It's right on. If you just look up into the David Crowley family deaths, you don't have to even scroll down very far. He donated $15. Your payment will be received by the campaign organizer, Dan Crowley. That doesn't make any sense as to why he did that. Not to mention, it was also really peculiar. He showed up in Vegas February 9th then.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It sounded like he just kind of took the money and ran. He was just trying to go and scam. Not to mention, if you look at the treatment for it, she had I think it was ovarian cancer. $6 million doesn't need even remotely close to that to pay for that. That's even with let's just hypothetically say everything was pushed onto collections. Even you're not looking at $6 million. You're looking at probably. I mean, I would argue it's going to be far under $1 million. It's from what I found, the treatment itself is I think it was $300,000 or $400,000, something like this for total treatment. And that's
expensive.
Going yeah.
My parents paid for my sister's.
Oh shoot, was it quite a bit more than the $300,000 or $400,000 or?
They never gave me exact details, but I do know that they had an inheritance from my grandmother, and they don't have it anymore.
Gotcha.
But they used quite a big chunk of it to help pay for my sister's medical bills, especially after she passed away.
Shoot. I'm sorry to hear about that.
Thank you. It's been several years, and she's at peace now.
Yeah. But it's like I said, I don't think that this is going to be $6 million is the bill. I think that's him trying to go and just see how much he can get and then run with it. That's personally just how I feel this guy is. I think he's just a con artist.
Why not talk to the family about it before doing it too?
Right. Set that up. Hey, let's go find a way to get you guys the money instead of it just going through me, and then hey, I'm going to go and donate it to you guys at a later time. Based on what he's trying to kind of claim. It seems like.
Right.
I mean, Dan just seems very, very suspicious with a lot of things when it comes to this too. So you got the what exactly was the issue that we don't even know about with him and David. Why is he showing up and then in this ninja get up on his Facebook page and then quickly deleting that or hiding it? Why is he saying something on October 26th? How has it become customary and so easy to watch human beings, myself being the guilty one here, brutally murder each other on TV and film? To me, it kind of seems like wasn't he in the military as well?
I don't think so.
I think it was when I saw something.
Don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, regardless, it's still he's probably desensitized. He probably did that on purpose. Prior, this is my personal belief on this. Is I do believe he, in my opinion, of course, I believe he was tied in to the triple homicide here. I do believe that he had something to do with it, and so I think he kind of desensitized himself just to, get him to that point. He probably had a lot of anger, and I think he probably had a lot of jealousy of his brother. So, I mean, if his brother was supposed to be getting this multi-million-dollar deal, and then of course moving to California, they're distancing themselves from the family. He's not going to have any, anything to really benefit from. I mean, it's not a huge thing, but also, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, he also got the trust fund and stuff. I mean, I could have sworn, wasn't there some kind of a will as well? Something drafted up
for David.
For I think it was something with upon David's death, it was to Como, and then after Como, it goes to the brother, I believe.
That I don't
Or was that just for the gun?
Yeah, I'm not sure
I think it was
about
just
that.
the movie
Oh, was it the movie?
that Dan was talking about was the rights and. Is that what we're talking about?
No. So I could have
Because
sworn
all three of the kids were on the trust fund.
Yeah.
So
Is that I know that the big thing that people were trying to point out is that obviously they were they didn't have any money, and looking at the financial records you'd see that okay, they were fine. They were basically, their money was decreasing, but that's not going to show the trust fund.
Right.
So I mean, if David's pulling money from the trust fund to go and fund their everyday life, I mean, I don't. But the thing is also I'm not really. I don't know, something about that the financial situation seems very, very suspicious as well.
It does. Yeah, I think the whole trust fund. There was a trust fund between David's dad and David's kids. There was something there. So obviously, what would have been split 3 ways now is just going to be split 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's.
So it's just more money for the 2 kids. So
Correct.
It's going to give more financial benefit.
Right. And
going back to the bank account, we only see the joint account. David and Camille had money in other accounts that they were putting into this one account.
Yeah.
And the joint account, for some reason, had the trust fund account information. I don't know.
It shows what the police were looking at, what they were, where they were going, and somehow they got stopped into going in certain ways. There's a lot of evidence that shows they were looking into Sean Wright, and they were looking into Danny Mason. They were looking into other people, and at some point, all of that just stops.
And that's the part that is just, like I said, I know it seems really easy to fall into this. I know that when you're looking into conspiracy theories, for instance, it's easy to find yourself in a rabbit hole that leads nowhere. But like I said, this kind of seems suspicious. It's that's where we're getting back to the elephant in the room. Is this connected to that?
Yep.
You know, are we looking at some other players in this that aren't even mentioned?
That's
You
what I
know?
would think. That's what I would
Yeah.
think. I think there's people
It's very possible.
pulling these strings. I don't think Dan Crowley Jr. all of a sudden woke up and said, you know what would be a great idea would be for me to set up a GoFundMe page for, for Kamel's family. I think somebody told him that would be a great idea and you should do this. I think we see that a lot in this case with a lot of people leading other people and maybe to make sure that the focus stays on them and so that we never look at the people who are pulling the strings here. And that's
Yeah. I mean,
one of my biggest worries.
well, like for instance, like one thing I noticed was if you look at like the conversation, they go from, I think his name's Chris Peck.
Hmm.
They go from him, and then he points out immediately, "Oh, have you talked to these guys?"
Right.
Oh, okay, I'll give you this guy's number. So it's like they're leading as well. It almost felt like that way. Like he led from Chris Peck to Danny Mason um, to Mitch Heil, and it kind of seemed like they were trying to lead this in a specific direction.
Hmm.
So that way they had enough time to basically get everybody the narrative. Now they know who they're, who the police are looking at first. Now we can kind of control the narrative as best we can until it gets to who we need it to.
Right.
So that way we have ample time to basically get everybody on the same exact narrative.
Hmm.
So,
To
I mean,
force
like
them.
I said, the other issue I had with it was it's like,
Yeah.
for instance, is Judy Prochnow.
Mhm.
I know the she who will not be named. Um, yeah, I'm surprised she isn't in the chat right now.
She
but,
could be.
She might
She
be.
might be.
Don't say her name 3 times.
Well, that's true. That's true. It's like Voldemort combined with Bloody Mary going on over here. um, but it's really odd because like she even kind of goes along with that narrative, and I'm not sure if she was like if she's a part of this at all. I mean, I can get into some connections I think potentially could mean that she is, but my big thing here is, I mean, it's more likely she was given the narrative. This is kind of what, this is what you're going to be talking about. These are your talking points. This is what your beliefs are. And the thing is, it seemed really peculiar because she apparently just like did not like David at all either. Like
Hmm.
she kind of made it seem like they didn't really. There was no conversing. She just didn't like him just because she didn't like him. Which obviously clearly that just happens, on a day-to-day basis with people. But with Judy, it just kind of seems a little odd because like Danny Mason's like basically shove off, you can have her and I'll handle. I think it was Mitch or was it Hendrickson? One of those. I know he had a conversation. I think it was it with you, Greg, or was it with was it with Dan? I had the conversation with Danny Mason, and he was like, "Oh, you handle Judy, I'll handle
Yeah.
this other guy."
Yeah. That's
So
that's
I
what
found
he
that a
told me.
little odd as well.
Hmm.
Why does anybody have to handle anybody? That's my question. It's like, why is he trying to like? It just seems like he's trying to push you in that direction, like to follow the narrative here, this route. Don't follow me. Don't follow these guys. Follow Judy.
Yeah.
She's the one you want to follow. It's like,
There was nothing about, hey, let's work together to figure out why David Crowley is guilty or why
Yeah.
he didn't do this. It was all about you get Judy, I get Mason. I think those were his exact words.
yeah,
And it's like, get them for what? I have no beef with Judy. I have no beef with
Yeah.
any of these people. My beef is trying to make sure that people understand David Crowley has not been proven guilty. If you're not in this
Exactly.
for that, I'm not. I have no interest in working with you. Period. Why would I want to work
Exactly.
with you? I mean, if a person can't see that clear fact that David Crowley did not do these crimes based on the evidence, why would I take you seriously? And he just did not get that. He did not understand that it was all about. I have no idea what that was, and that was like just a bunch of rambling that just seemed like I don't know. I know there was a lot of problems within the whole Gray State team, and you had a lot of people choosing sides, and Judy thought Sean Wright and Mason Hendricks were her friends or they were on her side, but they were playing her the whole time.
Yeah,
And
it's all about
she
the
was,
narrative. They're just trying
yeah,
to get that across.
she was just being used. So I don't blame her really for any of that. I just think she just is not a very smart person and was just easily and they knew that and they seized on that. And that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely seemed like they were kind of like they're just trying to control the narrative in every way possible.
Right.
I mean,
They're
obviously.
predators.
Hmm. And the thing is, like with like Danny, I think he's one of the guys that's really trying to go and control optics of this. I think he's the one who's benefited necessarily. Well, I would probably argue the most, because now he's he keeps talking about it. Sean Wright, where does he benefit from this? I mean, there's almost no benefit now. He's been it almost seems like he's been kind of etched out.
Right.
Hendrickson, has he really benefited from this? No, not really. He's been kind of etched out. They just lost their friend. They betrayed their friend, and they went along with this narrative. Now we can't confirm necessarily who is tied to this necessarily, but who is committing the act. But the ones that benefit the most are clearly Danny Mason and Dan Jr. Like the other ones didn't really benefit. I kind of feel like they were kind of just like useful idiots essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, even based on the way they spoke. I mean, you look at the way Sean Wright. I mean, he straight up threatened you. Why? You just wanted to go and have a conversation with him. Kind of get his side of
Greg.
things.
He threatens anybody involved with this case.
Oh, really?
Anybody who talks to him.
Ooh, interesting.
If he can't control you, he threatens you. Kind of like somebody else.
Yeah, typical meathead.
Who we will not mention.
Yeah. Yes, I think that will be the third time we've mentioned, at least.
Oh, gosh.
Uh-oh, that's 3.
Uh-oh.
For those listening right now, there is a docu-series on Amazon Prime called Murder on the Bayou. And for those of you who don't who don't think that murder and cover-ups don't go high up, watch that series, because it goes all the way up to a state senator, a U.S. senator, not a state senator, for the whole conspiracy and hiding and covering up and burying everything. That one reveals it all. And if it happened in one state, it certainly can happen in other states.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can even look at a bigger one than that, even. We can look at have you guys all read the JFK docs that were released?
Like from a couple years ago?
I haven't looked at all of them.
I mean, they make it pretty clear by reading the docs. Once you put all the pieces together and everything, then you can clearly see that this goes really high up.
Yeah.
LBJ, the CIA, everything. It's not a conspiracy. It's right there in the documents.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So you can see this, and we've been able to see this for years. All these different types of crimes where there's tons and tons of cover-ups. Did Lee Harvey Oswald do this? No, he didn't. We can definitively say he did not kill JFK. Just reading right through the documents, you can see it. He didn't do it. Did he have handlers and all this? Yes. I mean, he was a part of this, but he was not the killer. I don't want to directly just like butcher it, so I'm not going to go and like give what I'm pretty sure I read, but I could be mistaken. So, but it kind of goes back to the whole thing that cover-ups do happen. There was also what was the other one? There was a doctor and his wife. They ruled that a double suicide or a murder suicide or whatever, but then they ruled it later on. Oh no, it was a homicide. They wouldn't get into details past that though, because this was kind of leading up.
In Canada?
I think so. It was the pharmaceutical company CEO.
Yeah.
Wife.
You know that has connections too, right?
I haven't actually fully looked at the case, so I'm all ears.
It has connections to the Clintons.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. Hillary is, she's out and about. Let's be honest.
She doesn't get that nickname for no reason.
Well, yeah. Look back at Arkansas. Look at all the people that were ended up dead. Look at the private investigator that ended up dead.
Yeah, one of my friends, her cousin was one of the boys on the tracks.
No kidding.
Yep. They still haven't
That's
gotten
crazy.
any answers to that.
Jeez. Yeah, there's when people want to look at this kind of stuff, like, I think people they've gotten so used to seeing cover-ups based on like what the media, like mainstream media, is pushing and what Hollywood is pushing. And that's the problem, because cover-ups don't necessarily look like that. In fact, they more often than not they don't. The cover-up could be as simple as what we've got going on here. Just staging a crime scene. Simply put, that's proof enough. You can see it. You look at all these other people disappearing, or let's go on to the most famous one of all right now. Epstein didn't kill himself. So we can look
I
at all
don't
these
know.
different.
Lynn Wood just came out and said that he's alive still.
Yeah, exactly. As I was just about to say, I was like, my boy Lynn Wood.
I know, right? It's like
I mean, that's the.
he's
Have you
on
guys seen
fire
the,
lately.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Have you guys seen the photos on Jeffrey Epstein's island? They were captured supposedly by a drone. They've got
Oh, gosh.
they show a photo of him, what appears to be him, body shape, everything matches to a T, and all you can see is just a little bit of his face, and it looks exactly like him.
Why
Like
did
he's
he
on his
go
island.
back?
Well,
Everybody
I mean,
knows that island now. Why would he go back?
it's foolish. I think he could have been there just briefly, just to go pick up some things he needed or something like this.
Get some money.
My question is, why is Jelaine still alive? I'm surprised Hillary hasn't gotten to her yet. That's another one. But
She's being really protected. I don't even think that she's in the facility that they're saying.
no, I think she's probably like holed up someplace by herself with armed security all around.
Hmm.
But when it comes to back on track, of course, I feel like there's areas on this case that are heavily guarded, and I think that the two people we mentioned earlier, Dan and both the Dans, I feel like they're kind of trying to go and kind of redirect traffic. That's all they're playing right now is just basically I think it's called a flagger, like somebody that's like they're directing traffic on the road. I think that's basically what their job is right now. Just that way they can keep reaping the benefits. Because Danny Mason, he's not a big time actor. For like a small time, I mean, he's been getting more and more roles. I mean, we can see that on IMDb. I'm sure he's got more projects than that listed, but he seems to be benefiting quite a bit. And then Dan, of course, now he's doing pretty well with his own business, and I mean, he seems to be the other one who's going to be benefiting. Why is now he's got access to more money than the trust fund? So I think it's interesting because Dan, I'm not seeing doing a whole lot of like the directing the narrative in the same sense that Danny is.
Yeah.
Danny's got his I think that's why he's still talking to Sean Wright, to Hendrickson, to all these other guys, just to basically ensure the narrative is followed that needs to be followed, essentially. While Danny's kind of controlling like the family's side of things, the friends and family.
Well, they seem
I think
to be
that's kinda
at
how it is.
they seem to be at some type of civil war secretly, where they're all kind of going at each
The
other's
Dannys?
throats. Yeah, Danny Mason, Sean Wright. They're definitely on two separate sides of the Gray State, quote unquote, team.
Well, it definitely seems. I mean, in my opinion, I would say it's probably because Sean Wright's probably realizing, oh crap, I was a useful idiot. Crap.
Well,
I
it's
think
like
that's
everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody's cut ties except for Joseph Seaton. He still hangs out with Danny.
Which one again does?
Joseph Seaton. He's the
Oh.
baldish guy that had the choke thing around his neck. It was like some type of choker necklace.
Yeah, the one that was in the military with David.
Yeah.
I don't think he was necessarily serving with David.
Well, he claimed
I'll talk
to
you
be
privately.
he claimed
Okay.
to be David's commanding,
Superior officer, wasn't
yeah,
he?
superior officer. But I've had other people tell me that that is not true. So I don't,
Yeah, that he
I'm not
lied.
sure that that's if that's
And they all
accurate
lied.
or if it's not.
So,
Seaton is another interesting person who doesn't get a lot of, attention in this case. He kind of popped up, and David Crowley actually posted something. He just happened to run into Joseph Seaton while he was jogging, and then Joseph Seaton just happens to be one of the many people that think David Crowley is guilty. So
Mhm.
no, that's
some
true.
interesting
Yeah.
stuff there.
What did he say? It was what was he? He gave Camille and David a name. It was
Bonnie and Clyde, wasn't it?
Harriet and God, I can't remember it now off the top of my head. He was the one who came out and then started that whole decline for the documentary where they lead you into believing that David snapped and Camille went along with it and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I remember that part. He was just very, very adamant. No, they had to have done it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Sorry,
with what evidence, bro?
we have our windows open, and I think there was an accident, so you're going to hear some sirens go by. Sorry
Oh, no
about
worries.
that.
No worries.
No problem.
But no, I think there's a lot of inconsistencies in that area too, because I mean, like, what is Hendrickson doing now? Where is Michael? Where is, we know that Sean Wright, obviously, and Danny Mason aren't really, well, now I know, rather. They're kind of having this whole civil war. But how does this tie in? Like, how does Mitch tie into this? How does Hendrickson tie into this? I mean, right now, like, like, what are they doing? I looked around, and it doesn't look like Hendrickson's really doing anything. It doesn't look like Mitch Heil's really doing anything. It seems kind of like I said, it's just kind of like just those two people are the ones that are benefiting. I think just Sean Wright's just kind of fed up. So, but the Seaton guy, though, what is he doing though? Is he like? Is
Yeah,
he
I
like?
don't
I mean,
know.
He works for several TV shows,
interesting.
like a SEALs show or something like that, on the History Channel. He's supposed to have the training, but we've had people say that he is claiming that he does and he doesn't, that it's like stolen valor. Just like for me, if I was to say I was a combat soldier, but I'm not a combat soldier, I never was.
Yeah.
I was in the military, but I was never that. He's claiming to have more experience than he did, and so I don't know. But
Yeah.
several people have come forward and said he's not who he's claiming to be. He didn't have this experience.
Well, even then, speaking on like, falsehoods about like combat experience, Danny Mason's the other interesting one about that too, because I listened to, I think you sent me the interview. I want to say you did, where he had this interview with Sarah, I think her name was Sarah Sunderland or something like this, and so she's talking to him and asks basically like his Jeet Kune Do and all this. I'm not like a martial arts like. I'm not like some kind of expert that knows everything about it, but I decided I was going to go research on this. He BS'd the entire time through that. He's very, very much into like the new age type of like mystery teachings, if you will. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the schools of mystery, like from like ancient times or anything, but Reiki, all this, that all goes back to the same crap. It does not connect to Jeet Kune Do at all. You can go over Bruce Lee's teachings about it. I mean, he's the one who founded it. So he doesn't talk about it that way, at all. So I don't believe him either. But then you also see like him trying to teach David. I'm like, it looked more like David teaching him as well. So I don't know. There's more about Danny and the rest of these guys. It seems like there's a lot of lies. It seems like they were living lies, and like they still are. I don't think there's much true that we've actually been told. Like Mitch Heil has been kind of quiet. Hendrickson, I don't know much about him. Sean Wright, he's shifty. Let's be honest. He's shifty. He's a thug. So, I mean, if we're putting it bluntly, I think everybody's been kind of lying about like their history and all this and their skill sets and what they can bring to the table. I don't think any of them really brought much to the table at all, besides maybe Mitch Heil.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I was going too much off on a tangent there. I do apologize.
It's all good.
I tend to do that.
No, that's
But,
good. I think
Mhm.
I think we're gonna go ahead and shut this one down here soon. But I do hope maybe we can come back maybe next week. I'm glad that we got, and this was a great call here. I think this is a great way to end 2020 here.
Absolutely.
But I'd like to get any final words or anything before I shut this one down, and let me know what everybody in the chat thinks. I'm just looking through some of the chat. Chat room is on fire too. I need to go back. I missed a lot of it. Yeah, a lot of good topics here. Derek was saying, okay, yeah, Dan Hinnon donated, I think he said $16 to the GoFundMe thing. So I want to make sure that's clear. But yeah, so Will, do you have any final words here? I know you're probably going to be covering this. I know you cover a lot of other things here, and I hope everybody will go and check out your Twitch channel. Make sure that you let us know where people can watch those live streams. I had a lot of fun joining in that live stream.
Oh yeah.
A couple days ago. Do you do this weekly, bi-weekly,
Yeah,
or
every
just kind
weekend.
of random? Okay, cool. All right, awesome.
Every weekend from 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time until 12:30. Sometimes a little later. Just depends. But generally it's around like 12:30 or so.
Awesome.
And it's just it's twitch.tv/Strange Investigations.
Okay. And you cover what type of topics do you cover normally?
Pretty much any kind of like. I mean, I've been dabbling a little more in like the not necessarily paranormal, but like very very peculiar cases. Like there's cases that I've looked at that have been tied into like like different kinds of the mysteries of school teachings. I've looked at like mostly shooting investigations lately, but I've been looking at like I think my very first one I covered inconsistencies, like what the media was covering with Antifa and all this, and showing the truth about that, like what exactly was happening. I covered Kyron Horman, his whole strange disappearance, and I had everything set up to go and cover an arson investigation. It was going to be solved that night. I mean, I was literally on the right track. Everything I had for my notes, everything. We were going to be looking the person up. The person was on the first page of the Antifa watch list. I was like, oh, we had her. But yeah, I mean, we've looked at all sorts of different things on there. But it's mostly like, as of late, it's been Gray State and shootings. So.
Awesome.
And we just basically just collect as much information as we can, like we did with Noah Terry, that was a case in North Portland. We covered a ton of stuff on that one. So
cool. And those are always live on Twitch, right?
Yes.
All right, my friend. Well, again, thank you very much for joining us. I hope we can come back next year and just have some more chats here. I'm sure we'll have some more notes, and we'll. There's so much to cover just with this case, even if we don't get the chance to cover any of the other many cases that are out there. And I want to thank everybody on our YouTube stream for watching us. And Sophia, any final words from you? If you're still with us.
I would love to cover the BCA lab results with William and you.
Awesome.
That's fine.
Okay.
Hopefully we can get to that.
We almost made it there.
Off topic, just a little
It's
bit.
all right. We will get there.
We'll set that for next time.
Exactly.
But I did enjoy this conversation, and thank you, William. Sometimes I can get a little passionate about the case, but it's not you, I promise.
No, it's all good. I totally understand.
All
And
good.
I'd like to wish everybody a happy 2021.
Woohoo.
Hopefully, it will be a much better year for everyone.
Right?
All right.
Well,
Well, I'm
thank you
gonna.
guys for having me. I totally appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always great to have you. And I'll just say until next time, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in the live chat. Thanks for everybody who is a part of the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group. And we will continue our efforts into 2021. A new podcast will drop tomorrow, and that will be the audio version and a special video version. So make sure that you come back here. We will have a live chat for that as well. God bless you all,